Good evening and welcome to Poker Night Live. I'm Michelle and tonight I'm going to be taking you through the world of poker. Texas Hold'em style, I do believe tonight.
That'll be the one tonight.
How am I going to do that? Well, we are going to watch internet games being played live. I have a poker expert with me, that's Matt. Hello Matt.
Hello.
Broughton.
Michelle.
How are you?
Very good, thank you.
It's been a while actually.
It has been a while since we've been on together.
Well, we will talk about what you've been up to in just a minute. Matt here is going to be commentating on all of the games we watched tonight. It's going to be tournaments, multi-table tournaments and our usual cash games. We can see everybody's hold cards. It's a wonderful way to learn the game. And with Matt telling us what's going on, what's right and what's wrong, you'll soon pick it up. Now, if you are a bit of a poker whiz and you've been playing for a while, do stick with us as well, because we do like to hear your input. But tonight is an amateur night. If you have any questions for your expert or any comments on what you've seen tonight, you can text us. Here's the text number. Oh, I nearly said 62211.
No, don't say that again.
84222. There it is on your screen. Do remember it because it is new. You can email if you would rather. That's poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. And do remember when we go to a break to check us out on the World Wide Web, www.pokernightlive.co.uk. So like I said, we're going to be watching cash games, tournaments and multi-table tournaments. Sit and goes generally as well. We're watching them throughout the night. So Matt, if you wouldn't mind quickly taking us around the tables.
It would be my pleasure. Okay, so table one is a cash game. This is a 25-cent, 50-cent.
So these are the four tables we're going to be mainly watching tonight.
Indeedy. And a quick bounce to number two. And this is one of our sit and goes, just started. This is a $5 sit and go. Not too long into that one. This is just up a bit. This is a $10 sit and go. Again, just started. Some familiar faces there, multi-tabling. And the final table is, of course, the green table of joy. This is our multi-table tournament that we're going to come back to as the night progresses and ultimately finish with the final table with all the chips and all the players and all the money.
Oh, isn't it beautiful?
It's a beautiful green thing.
And we'll be watching the final table as well at the end. So, Matthew, what have you been up to? You don't mind if I call you Matthew, do you?
You can call me whatever you want. A bit of
poker.
Have
you been playing?
I have been playing a bit. I was playing last week in one of the heats for the Irish Open.
Oh, wonderful.
And in fact, glad to report that while we were having one of our live interviews with Tony Kendall, he actually knocked me out. So he was just showing off. He was on the phone, talking to the show, and knocking me out with a pair of nines, killing my pair of sevens. Other than that, I've actually been making poker tables all weekend, and the rain started, so I went indoors, and then the sun came out, so I went back out, and then so I've been in and out of my house trying to make,
around,
just trying to make poker tables. But other than that, not a lot, sitting around watching telly, you know. Normally exciting life of a poker pro.
Oh, well, we'll be touching on some of your games and how you're on, because our lovely Dr. Tom has been over in Reno.
Oh, really? Thought we'd not seen him for a while.
He has been back for a while, but don't worry, he will be back on our screen to get withdrawal symptoms from the doc, you see. He will be back on our screen soon, and we'll be finding out how he did in Reno as well. Where do you fancy starting tonight, Matt?
I'd like to have a look at the MTT.
Okay, so that's what we'll do. We'll head over to the multi-table tournament first. We've got some info on this, actually. Okay.
138 players.
And it's $10 buy-in. Do you know what? I'm going to be playing on this on Tuesday night.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very exciting.
So everyone can watch me lose.
Well, let's hope that we find you. We'll make sure we find you early in the show,
Nothing
just
like
in
a
case.
bit of optimism.
Just in case you get knocked out after 3 hands.
Yeah, thanks.
And what the thing is, you can look forward to the likes of perhaps tonight's first prize, $414 for your $10 buy-in.
$414.
How's that catch you?
Oh, it does.
Do you like that? Are you in it for the money, or are you in it for the prestige?
Oh, I'm in it for the money, of course.
Oh, okay.
No, actually, do you know what? I'm really not at the moment. I'm genuinely just like to win. I'm really competitive. Some people out there will know that about me. I'm a really competitive person, and
poker's not the only game. You play lots of games, don't you? You're very competitive.
I'm really good at chess.
Yeah, cartwheels, I know. Now, just to remind everyone what we're watching here. So this is the multi-table tournament. You've got 138 players spread across a number of tables, and everybody starts with 1,500 in chips. The blinds are very low at this stage, 10 and 20. But obviously, as time goes by, the blinds go up, the pressure builds, people start getting knocked out, and all the tables automatically balance out, so there's an even number of players.
So the tables are condensed as people are knocked out?
Absolutely,
and we'll end up with one?
Absolutely. So all the chips that are currently in play, which is 138 people times by 1,500, which I'm not going to do because I haven't got a calculator like James. I always thought James was really, really fast. Really fast at doing those kind of mental arithmetic. Until I worked with him for the first time the other night. I realised he's just got a calculator and a bit of paper. But other than that, it all breaks down until we do end up with all of the chips. 207,000 chips in play. All will end up on our final table.
Okay, so... we are watching a tournament, a Texas Hold'em tournament. It's for people that haven't watched this game before. It can be very confusing, and it all happens very quickly. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of taking us through what's going on, what is this? And how does it work?
Is the Cadillac of poker. This is Texas Hold'em. It's one of the most popular.
Lovely analogy, Cadillac.
Sorry?
Cadillac.
Yes, it is. A minute to learn, a lifetime to master. This is the poker variant of choice. This is what they play in all the big European and World Poker Tours, all of the big World Series. As you can see, everybody starts off by being given, should I say, 2 cards. These are called your whole cards. Nobody else sees these, even though here we see everyone's cards exposed. These are your personal cards, and no one else gets to see them but you. Once you receive those cards, there's a round of betting, and the more that you watch, the more you'll understand what are quality starting hands. And the things that define quality starting hands are what possibilities there are for those to develop, because ultimately you're going to be making your best 5-card poker hand.
Yeah.
You will actually end up with 7 cards to pick from, because as you see, this is called the flop. Here come 3 cards down on the board, and these are like community cards, so everyone in play has access to these cards. Here comes a 4th card. Ultimately, if we get to this stage, we'll end up coming down to the 5th card, which is called the river. And at that point, you've got 5 cards on the table, 2 in your hand, 7 cards in total to make the best 5-card.
You don't have to use both cards or even any cards from your hand,
you're just picking the best 5. So here you can see that Johnny has got 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's got himself the straight, using both of the cards in his hand, the 2, the 4, and the 6 off the table. I imagine he's not going to get called because our other player had an out. But as I say, you get 2 cards followed by a round of betting, 3 cards down called the flop, another round of betting, the 4th card called the turn, another round of betting, and then finally the river card.
So there's 4 rounds of betting.
Oh, oui.
2 ways to win.
Yes, either by having the best card when it comes to a showdown, or by managing to bet in such a way that your opponents don't want to fight you.
Or you can trick your opponents into thinking you have the
Well,
best
exactly,
cards.
and that's the beauty of the game, is that's why it's become so popular, is because there's that community information. Like right now, we know that Del Boy's got himself 2 pairs, because he's got a pair of aces and a pair of 9s, because he's matched what's on the board. Of course, if he didn't, he might still bet big, and now everyone's going, oh God, he's betting so big, is he bluffing, is he lying? So there's a lot about the game which is representing what you're hoping your opponents will believe you've got, versus actually always having, because as you'll see, the more hands you watch, actually being dealt premium hands, as we would call them, you know, real powerful hands like ace-king or a pair of queens, or that doesn't happen very often. So just playing poker where you're waiting to make a big hand, you're never going to get very far, because that just doesn't happen. And here in the tournament, where the blinds are going up every 12 minutes, you will eventually run out of chips if you just sit and wait, or you'll end up with such a tight image that when you do bet, everyone will think, well, this guy only ever bets with big hands, and you won't get any action.
You have to excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat.
Really? Would you like a lady clear?
Well, the language of poker obviously being betting. This is quite a complicated part of the game. So tell us about that.
Okay, well, as you can see, there's a little button there. We call it the button, the little D in a circle. That indicates who is acting as the dealer. And rather than many poker games where everybody puts an ante, everyone antes in, the way it operates in Texas Hold'em is there's something called the blinds. And there's a small blind and a big blind. And here you can see that in seat 2, Bone is the dealer. The person to his immediate left is the small blind, which in this instance is 10, followed by the big blind, which is 20. And that essentially is, as well as the blinds being that mechanic that keeps the pressure on people as they go up, it also means that there's money in the pot. Everybody following on from the small and big blinds must at least match those bets to like stay in the action.
Okay.
And anybody that wishes to continue must at the very least match that amount. So with the blinds being 10, 20, anybody wants to play, it's at least 20. Of course they can raise it up as well, or they can just fold out. In the second round of betting, which we're not getting to at the moment because everyone's being super tight.
Super tight.
When there's no bet, once those blinds have gone in the first round, for all subsequent rounds in that hand, the first person to actually kick off the action, i.e. the person to the left of the dealer, has the option to check, which means that they decline to make a bet and the action moves to the next player. If everybody checks all the way around the table, you get free cards. But you'll pick this up as we go along. We'll keep referring back to this because it does take a little while to follow this. But the key thing to do is watch where the D is, watch where the dealer position is, because everything leads on from that in a clockwise direction styling.
As we watch Nelmuth trying to be cheeky here, he probably thinks he's got the best hand with his kings and his eights, but he's just checking. He looks like he's trying to lead his opponents astray.
Exactly, and that's again part of it. In the same way that the cards, you know, you don't necessarily have to only react to the cards you've got. The betting again is something that you can use. It's, you know, just because you've got the best cards doesn't mean you necessarily want to bet. People are forever putting down traps. They're trying to put down amounts of bet that kind of mislead their opponents. One of the great quotes is bluffing. You know, bluffing shouldn't be confusing. It should be misleading. Your bets should try and sell your opponents a story, rather than just be some random amount and everyone goes, don't know where we are.
So basically with the betting, the thing you have to remember is you don't move on to the following round until everybody's bets are even.
Indeed.
And if anybody makes a raise at one point, obviously you have to match that, but you can't re-raise yourself.
Absolutely, yes. So when the betting has done a full circuit of the table with no more raises, that's when you move on to the next stage, be that the flop coming down or the next card, or if it's at the very end of the hand in the showdown. But yeah, you're absolutely right. As long as it has done a full orbit of the table with no further re-raises, then the hand continues. And here we are on one of our cash games. 50-cent, $1 game. And as I say, we're going to bounce back to the multi-table on and off as the evening progresses. It's ticking away in the background, 138 people battling it out. But here we see a full table. This being the 50-cent $1. People can sit down with anything from $10 to $100. And you can see some variants. You got Monty in seat 4, up at $136, and Liverpool 112 in seat 8 with but a mere $9.50. But you can still finance another 9 big blinds, and obviously he's not putting the blind in for every single circuit of the table.
Liverpool. I wonder who he supports.
Tricky one, that.
Okay, so let's have a quick look around the table. We've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Very inventive. We've got Smooth Cut, Potty Dotty. We've got Monty. Oh, Assiduous. Well, it's Assiduous, I think. He was trying to tell us, because James was calling him Assiduous.
Well, that's what it says.
It's supposed to be Assiduous.
Well, you've got to spell it right, haven't you?
I think maybe just forgot the I. We've got Duff Mither, very clever, and Liverpool. Who's actually, I think Duff Mither is Tragic Trev as well.
Oh, really?
Yes.
He has a nom de plume.
He does.
Which is French for a name in his hat. I could be wrong. I didn't do French.
I can speak a bit French.
Oh, oui.
Je voudrais un fromage jambon s'il vous plaît.
That's just je voudrais. Je voudrais un kilo de pomme. Je suis en rockstar. Je joue football. I mean, that isn't really the sort of French that's going to get
I can get by
you.
in French. I can ask whatever I need.
As long as it's a fruit, I would imagine.
No, as long as it's a cheese and ham sandwich. Right, okay, so cash game, minimum you can sit. So these, if you want to play in a cash game, you go to your site, you pick a table that you like.
Yep.
If there's a spare seat, you sit down, and generally the minimum you can sit down with is 10 times the big blind, so in this case $10, and the maximum is 100 times the big blind, therefore $100.
Yes,
and you just sit down and start playing, and you can leave whenever you like.
Yeah, the difference with the cash games, and quite often they're referred to on the sites as ring games, when we were looking before at the tournament, we were talking about the fact that every 12 minutes those blinds go up. Here in the cash game, they never go up. You pick the limit you want to play at, be that your 25, 50 cents, your 50 cent $1, the game you sit in, which you said the 15 cent, 30 cent game, is it?
That I play in, yes, a 15 cent, 25 cent
that's
game.
Fine.
That's all my bankroll would allow.
Whatever you want, the 10 cent, 20 cent game, whatever it is you pick, but those limits, basically, you've got to find a limit that you're comfortable with and that your bankroll will sustain. But once you sit down, there's no pressure on you to get involved in hands, that the blinds don't go up, they will stick at this level for as long as you need. And in fact, here we are, Liverpool was on $9 when we sat down, bang, in the space of one hand. Don't be misled by the kind of the relative size of those blinds, because these pots can still get pretty hefty because we're playing no limit here, which is a lot different from limit games. In no limit, as the name would suggest, you can make bets any amount you want, from the minimum being the big blind. So the minimum bet here is $1, the maximum, all the chips in front of you. So these pots can still build into fairly hefty, hardcore amounts, even though it seems like it's a relatively cheap game. But
so
you can
the
sit
game
here for as
of
long as you
poker,
want.
you can. The game of poker is very much about making decisions, isn't it? Every single hand you play, you'll have many decisions to make, and there's lots of different factors that help you make that decision.
Absolutely,
so.
and I mean, tonight is like amateur night, and we do encourage you. Any question, no matter how kind of basic you might think it is, just ask, because there's a lot to be taken into consideration. Everybody generally starts off when they learn Texas Hold'em by looking at their cards. The next thing you've got to consider is what cards come down on the table, and you start trying to work out what the other players might have, and that is obviously also tempered by their betting, and then you've got to think about position, and then you've got to think about your knowledge of that player and the history. So there's a huge amount of input that, like, as you rightly say, that affects the decisions you make. You can't just make your decisions based upon the cards you've got, because if somebody is constantly betting into you, they can't always have a better hand than you, so you might realise, well, this guy's probably an aggressive guy who likes to bluff a bit more. So that is going to affect the decisions you make the next time you run into that player. And of course the beauty
it's
of
a
playing
paramount
online,
part of the game as well, isn't it? To be able to read your opponents and be able to realise how they read you at the table as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
How
you know,
you're perceived.
a lot of people that have had more experience playing live, you know, they might poo-poo perhaps the online as far as when you play online, how much of an image you can build up for yourself. But you can, you know, land on a table and be the aggressor that always raises up every pot. Don't let people in cheaply. And people will make a note against you. You know, make use of the little online function to keep notes on these players. Because as we see here every night, we're always running into, you know, familiar faces. And if you tend to play the same limits at the same time of day on the same sites, you're going to run into similar guys. So if we find out that Liverpool is a real chancer, well, that's good to know, because if you sit down in a month's time and you bump into him, you've already got that little bit of knowledge.
But then saying that, obviously, it's very important to know how you're perceived at the table, and it's good, and everybody does tend to have a style. So let's say, for instance, you're a tight player, by which I mean, obviously, you only tend to play the big hands. Now, people are going to know that you're a tight player, they're going to perceive you as that. So then, do you then have to become a loser player because of that? Do you have to be constantly adapting?
It really depends. In a cash game, not necessarily. In a cash game, lots of people have a plan and they stick to it, and they have a certain list of hands that they're not prepared to play anything weaker than ... you know, fill in the gaps, whatever you like. I mean, you know, if it's I never play any pair less than 9, I'll play ace king. If that's what you're going to play, that's fine. You will find that those hands don't come around very often, and when they do, you're only going to get called by people who similarly have big hands, because they know you're tight and aggressive. But tight and, you know, you're only going to play those big hands. But at some point, you will get action and you will get paid off. But most people find that they want to have a bit more give in their game, because otherwise it can become very dull just sitting grinding away. And I think in the recent years, because of the amount of coverage and shows like ours, people see that actually the aggressive players tend to do better. They pick up pots, because if you're only picking up the pots that you legitimately win, that's a pretty slow process. The key thing is stealing blinds, and by that we mean, you know, when you're not one of the people that's posted one of the blinds we spoke about, to make big bets and to get people to fold, you're picking up these little amounts that really you have no right to win, but you have to be a little bit more adventurous. But, you know, quite often people that start in a game will play very, very tight, so everyone does label them as a rock, as a real tight player, because that then gives them the flexibility that later on, when they have junk in their hands, they make a move and everyone goes, oh, he is really, this guy, he only plays big hands. So you need to sort of have that ability to change gears. Otherwise you miss out opportunities where you really could pick up some pots that you have no real claim to, but you think, I've just realised I've not played more than 2 hands in the last hour, both of which have been big pairs. If I make a move here with my 6-7, I might just win the pot here and now without any challenges.
Something that really helped me when I first started to play was when I can't remember which pro it was now, I think all of you at one point, it being very important that once your money is in the middle, and once your chips are in the middle, to no longer see them as your chips, to start each one new, to look at how much is in the pot, what your odds are, how much you've got in your hand, how much you could win off your opponent, look at the situation, forget how much you've already put into the pot, because that becomes irrelevant. And once I realised that, it stopped me from playing with bad hands just because I'd put a lot into the pot already, getting married to hands that I shouldn't have been, that I should have been able to put down.
Well, you said a little while ago, the key thing is it's all about making decisions. And again, as you're right to say, once the money's in, that's gone. You can't rescue it. There's no getting it back. You've got to see it as an investment, and like any investment, sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't. So if you've got a pair of sixes and somebody raises it and you pay to see the next cards, if you don't get the cards you want, well, that was an investment you made. Had it worked out, bingo, but it hasn't, and you can't let the fact that you've made an investment make you play a pair of sixes against a flop of king 4-6, king 4 queen. You can't let the fact that you've got money invested in the pot really affect your decisions. In the same way that one of the things we see a lot is people in the blinds, people in the small or the big blinds, putting more money in because they think, well, I'm already in for the small blind, I'll just put a bit more money in with this junk. And it's like, again, that money is gone. You can't control that. That's the price of sitting down, or it's the investment you made. If it's not working, if any given situation you think, I really don't think I'm winning here, somebody's betting into you. I was watching some footage today from the World Series, and there are these guys where just to get involved in the pot, it's like $100,000. They've got to let it go. If they think they're beaten, they've got to let it go. So you can't let that money in the middle
Let me ask you that, actually, because that was a question I wanted to ask. I think I kind of know the answer, but in that World Series of Poker last year, the two, Hatcham and Dandenham, heads up, Dandenham had raised on that last hand, and Hatcham called him with a 7-3 offsuit. Now, he did that obviously because he was a huge chip leader, and forgetting about the fact he won with it, is that the right play? Is that something you can do when you're that far, when you're ahead?
Well, heads up is just such a different game, and to be honest, most of what we're gonna, we've got 4 hours and we're gonna watch a lot of poker here. Is that it's only really when we come at the end of the show to watch the end of the multi-table tournament that you're gonna see some heads up action. It is so different because when you've got, well, you'll see that out of 20 hands played, nobody picks up a hand. There are guys playing, king 9 and queen 7, just because when there's only 2 players, the strength of hands you play, you have to be a bit more aggressive, a bit more ambitious, and also you've got to get a bit more lucky, because if you're playing heads up, chances are you're not going to pick up a, inverted commas, premium hand for quite a long while. Yeah. So I think that's the truth of it, is that I'm sure that Hatcham there, you're right, in that move, and if people aren't familiar with it, he's got rags in his hand, there's a raise to him and he calls it, and he actually flops a straight. But I'm sure that Hatcham is disciplined enough that if he hadn't hit that, he lets it go. But in heads up, you've got to be a bit more speculative, because if you're waiting for a big hand to come, that could take forever. And also if you get players that are very good at post-flop betting, because a lot of people are very good at looking at the 2 cards in their hands and they know exactly how strong they are. A lot of people don't develop their ability to bet after the flop, which, they play a style which goes, I like these hands, I'll play it. Yeah. The flop doesn't hit them and then they don't know what to do. They kind of check and then a stronger player will make a big move. So I think that's what you see with those guys on those final tables, is they know that even if they just get to the flop, they can maybe even outplay their opponent, even if they don't actually outdraw their opponent. You
do see some big moves as well, don't you, in those big tournaments. We've just got a couple of emails here. We have one from Snowblind. He says, hi there, great show as usual. Now I need to know about my play. I've just went out tonight in your multi-table tournament. Sorry to hear that, Snowblind. He says, the chip leader was on my table and was raising almost every other hand. I sat and waited till I got ace king. I think it was one off under the gun. The guy under the gun limps. I limp, knowing the chip leader will probably raise. He does. He raises 500. Blinds are 50, 100. Everybody else folds. He comes to me and I push all in, believing my hand to be the best. I have 3,200 chips. And he's called with Jack 10 suited. He flops a king high straight. Now I don't believe I did anything wrong in that hand whatsoever, but please tell me if you believe I did. I would have been quite happy to have taken the chips without a flop, but as I said, 99% knew I had the best hand. It's just a bit unfortunate, I think, really.
Well, he was unfortunate in that when it actually got to the cards being over, you then get outdrawn. You go in with ace king and you're versus Jack 10 and you have the best of it. But I would say that you do make a mistake in that you say that you're waiting and waiting for the hand, and you get ace king, and what do you do with it? You limp in. Well, why would you do that? Because you've kind of handed the initiative back to the other player, who's clearly more aggressive because you've already identified that he's making moves all the time. I guess my question is, if you're already prepared to go all in with it, because you make it sound like he makes a bet which you expected him to and I go all in, well, maybe if you had actually made a move before him, you make him go, because a big part of betting is being the driving force. If you're the guy initiating the action, if you make a big move, then you're kind of putting the pressure on the other players and you're saying, right, you want to play? I've got a hand. And the guy has to go, ah. Whereas if you limp in, it sort of shows weakness. It invites the other guy to go, right, well, bang, some chips. So I guess the only question is, Jack 10 suited, it's going to be early in the multi-table tournament because we know the multi-table tournament's not been running for too long. I think there, if you make a re-raise, if he makes it 500, will you take up to 1,500? And now you're saying you're Jack 10 suited. Do you want to go up against me? Because that guy's got a fear that you're holding a queen or a king or an ace, and you could outdraw him. So I think the truth is we were just having a conversation about aggression and how much difference it makes when you're kind of taking the initiative. You've waited and waited until you've got the premium hand, and you did ace-king, brilliant, and then you limped in. So
and if you show weakness, I suppose they're going to be more likely to call you, and that gives them the opportunity to outdraw you as well.
Yeah, I mean, unless that was your plan, unless you're thinking, haha, ace-king, I'm going to draw some people in here, and by limping you think you might induce a bluff, but this guy is clearly happy to pay. I think you would be better off there by being the guy that makes the move. If people fault you, well, at least you picked up some blinds, but the truth is, if you've said, I sat and waited, that sounds like they've got you pretty much pegged as a tight player, is that if you're sitting waiting, and then suddenly you're going all in. I mean,
and then even if you want people to come along with you, if you've got ace-king, a pair, a pocket pair is still going to be slightly ahead of you pre-flop anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if the guy is being overly aggressive and raising a lot, it's going to be very hard to put him on a hand. You know, when you've limped in and he makes it 500, it's going to be hard to know what he's got, and that's the difference in his game, is that if he's being more active, then it is going to be harder to sort of really put him on a hand. But I just think when you hit the hands, don't sit back. You know, you very rarely see the guys that sit back and limp in and, you know, take it carefully. Those are generally not the guys that pick up chips. So
do when you've got the nuts.
You certainly got unlucky to get outdrawn, because you go into an ace-king versus 10-jack, you've got the best of it by 2 cards. But he outdraws you, and I think it's more a case of you putting him in the position to actually have the opportunity to outdraw you. Had you bet, maybe you get rid of him and you take a pot there.
Lovely. Well, thank you for your email, Sable. I will be doing some more emails a bit later. For now, we can head back to our multi-table tournament. Here we are. Let's have a look at this table. We've got Hoik balls, top left. It's Hoik balls, not Howick.
Howick. Hoik.
Ipswich, pad, paddock poker, grouch, omix, rum chip, Dix. Ah, he's got me before. He's got me before, Dixie. I just got myself there. Boise, UK, Lee, and Hoik balls at the top. We'll try and get some info of how many people we've still got in the game.
I can tell you that, Michelle.
Oh, have you been told?
I have. The voices in my head, apart from the normal ones, have told me that there's 101 people left, so we are down. We have lost 37 players. Our big stack is just under 6,000 chips, so you can see here that actually Ipswich 5 in seat 1 is not too far away from the current chip leader. But we also have somebody limping here on 980. Who might have been just considering making a move on that messy flop.
Apparently, Ipswich was the player that knocked out Snowblind from that email.
Our friend that wrote in a little while ago with his ace-king. There you go. Well, it'll be interesting, actually. Well, let's see if Ipswich plays true to Snowblind's little comment, which was that he was raising and raising and raising. We just saw him make a raise there, in fact. Indeed, Michelle.
Indeed.
Do you mind being called Michelle?
Yes, do actually, yes.
Good. Just checking that I wasn't wasting my time.
All right. I'll call you Matthew then.
That's fine, that's my name. Ipswich.
Call you Broughton then.
Who?
Broughton.
Broughton. Oi, Broughton. Leave it. Look, there you go. Ipswich, pair of 6. Not the biggest pair in the world.
Raises up, he does. Oh, and he gets a call from Dixie.
Yeah. But Dixie not really responding to the flop. Ipswich.
That call from Dixie, to me, it looks bad because he hasn't got position. It's a queen 6.
Absolutely.
What do you think of that?
Absolutely, and that's a very important. You know, I mentioned this a little while ago. We were talking about all the information that comes in. Is that again remembering that D is the dealer button, and we know that all action starts clockwise to the left of that. Is the point Michelle's making? Is that Dixie calls that with a less than premium hand, safe in the knowledge that they're going to be first to act because of where the dealer position is. So we talk about the strength of the hand being relative to the position. If you want to play Queen 6, you want to play it right round the back of the table so that once that flop comes down, everybody else has to act before you, so that you can make a judgment. If everyone checks round, you might suddenly want to become very aggressive with that queen. But to call and know you're going to be under the gun in the next round really doesn't make much sense.
So is it a decent play to think, if you're going to play in early position, wait till you have the premium hands, and when you're at the later position you become, you can start experimenting with lesser hands? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the truth is it's very simple. The earlier you are, the stronger your hand needs to be, because the other thing you have to consider is that, you know, if you want to limp in, if you want to limp in with a pair of 4s, just fingers crossed that another 4 comes down. If you do that, if it's dealer, small blind, big blind, and then it's you to act, apart from the fact that you're kind of early there, there's still 5 people behind you, 6 people, 7 people still to act.
So it's asking a lot that no one's going to raise.
Exactly, and if you want to limp in for 50, what if somebody now raises up to 100 and then somebody raises it to 300? So that's why the position's so important, because not only are you going to be one of the first people asked to act, but also you don't know what the guys behind you are going to do. So you have to be prepared that says, if you're going to try and get involved cheaply early in position, what if these guys make it expensive for you? So yeah, you're absolutely right that the earlier you are, the stronger your hand has to be, unless you're somebody who loves to take control of the table and you want to get involved and you want to play rags. But we see that for every kind of random chancer that gets lucky, most people that win are playing solid hands and they're playing in the late position.
I think also a lot of people watch poker on TV. They watch things like World Series of Poker. They see the guys going in with less than good hands in bad position, and they're thinking, oh, see, it's a fine thing to do. But like you said earlier, the difference is these guys know how to play the flop. These guys aren't necessarily playing their cards all the time.
Yeah, and also you think about the amount of chips they have, because it's very easy to lose track. And we talk about this a lot, is that the amount of information available to you when you play online is staggering, and it's brilliant in that right now we're looking at our screen, we can see exactly what everybody's got because there's the number under their names. We can see exactly what people bet because the chips appear and the numbers by it. There's 100. We can see what's in the pot because it's written at the top of the screen. So we know exactly what's going on. In the live games, these guys are making big bets of 50,000, 100,000. But these guys have got 20 million in chips. So even though they seem like massive, massive plays, it actually represents a pretty small part of their chip stack. But the difference is they're playing in a tournament that takes 6 days. Here we are in a tournament that takes a few hours. So of course they're never going to be playing with a chip stack relevant to the blinds that gives them as much, as much room to maneuver in as those kind of televised tournaments. And also remember, the televised tournaments are edited. The hell out of those tournaments is just ripped. So no one wants to see 20 hands in a row where the dealer shuffles, he deals, everyone folds. Yeah. Shuffles, he shuffles. So you mostly only see the premium hands going up against each other until you get down to the 4 or 5 players left, and that's where everyone starts loosening up.
Yeah.
But again, if anybody ever gets to go and watch any of these things being filmed, you see that actually there's a huge amount of very, very dull player because no one's really getting involved in that many raggy situations. We spoke about that move with Joe Hashim. That's heads up. People play anything heads up because at best, most of the time, it's a coin flip.
Yeah.
And at that point, the blinds and antes are kind of chewing away. So it's not really a crapshoot, but it gets a much more speculative game, and it's much more about people getting involved in the pot and then seeing how they feel like after the flop and just, using their aggression, their experience.
And on heads up, sometimes you see a lot of people getting jiggy with like second pair, third pair.
Yeah, absolutely, because they know that most of the time that's going to be the best of it. And again, we'll see it when we come towards the end of the evening and we zone in on our final table with the multi-table. You see when it gets down to 3 players, 4 players, most of the time you're not seeing lots of big hands. People aren't making straights. People aren't like landing 2 pair. There's a lot of battles that are about high pair, or it might be, you've got Queen, Jack, 8-2. Somebody might have a pair of 8s and they've got the best of it. But it's only through experience, and I always actually highlight this is if you're looking, you're coming to the game new and you're looking to improve your game, one of the big dropout zones for a lot of people is if they do well in a tournament and they find themselves head up, they're like, oh my god, I've never been heads up before. Because most people have a lot of experience of playing 8 or 10 handed because that's how they start every tournament. You get knocked out in 7th, you get knocked out in 3rd, you get knocked out in 4th. When you get down to heads up, it's a different game. And I really advise people, when you're walking around the lobbies of all the online poker clients, a lot of them have, sit and go tournaments that are just pure heads up. I'd really recommend you spend a little investment practicing there, because imagine you get into one of these big tournaments and you do manage to get down to heads up or short-handed. If you've got no experience in there, right now, the most important point when you're actually in the chance of winning the money, here in our multi-table, sorry, we're not watching multi-table, the cash game, but on our green table of multi-tableness, the difference between first and second place is $414 to $276. So that's when every single place, when you're down, 10th and 9th, it's $10 difference between the prizes. When you get up to the top, and like we've mentioned it a couple of times because we both watched it recently.
Which is really strange.
We just happened to have both watched, again, the end of the 2005 World Series, but the difference between first and second place, it's millions.
It's because it was on Sky this week.
Indeed it was. So,
and I don't play enough heads up. I mean, actually, funny enough, Loomis, one of our players on here, keeps telling me that I have to go and play with him. Because he challenged me.
How very
and
unique.
I said I would, so I will do that, because you can do heads-up tournaments, can't you?
Yeah.
So I will do that.
Yeah, and I hope at some point we bring it into the roster of games we watch, because it is a very different game. And it's always great, whenever we come down to the final table in our multi-tables, that the heads-up stuff is a very different game. And it's a real weakness, and you get somebody who's managed to carve his way through 139 people, and he gets down to the last person, and he just doesn't know. And if you get a really good aggressive player that just plays whatever he's got really aggressively, then
this situation
it's
here,
going to fall apart.
This situation here, I mean, we can see Liverpool going in big after the flop here. Do you recommend going in big after the flop if with ace-king, if you've missed? I mean, he hasn't hit anything, there is a pair on the board. If you've got ace-king, you're probably the aggressor pre-flop. You've probably raised it up, so therefore it's a really difficult one.
Well, the thing is, we talk about this a lot, and you'll see that betting is a mechanic that's not just about building up money; it's about asking questions. So there's been some people there's been some raising before the flop. So before the flop. So when the flop comes down 3-3-7, you think, well, anybody that's paid money to continue in this hand, how likely is it that they've got a 7 in their hand or a 3 in their hand? Because that would be the sort of junk that you'd probably throw away. So that bet from Liverpool, apart from that he might truly believe he's got the strongest hand, it also just asks the question that says, did anybody hit that? And that's what defines the difference between aggressive players and passive players, is that his first to act, he hasn't actually hit any part on the flop. A lot of people would just check. But of course, if somebody checks, it comes around to you and you bet, they're probably going to fold out. If you actually make the bet, one, you might just find everyone folds, you've won it, ta-da, or somebody calls you, it at least gives you a bit of information that says they have probably either hit a part of this or they've actually already got something juicy in their hand.
Well, this takes us nicely onto the continuation bet. Because I was talking about this with James a little bit the other day. Now, it's quite difficult. If you've raised pre-flop and then missed the flop, made a bet, somebody's called, and if they re-raise, obviously you know where they are, but somebody's called and then the turn comes out, the continuation bet where to bet again, it's very difficult to do.
Absolutely, and this is also, again, all these things tie together. It's again about the position, because if you are the first to act, you put yourself in a position where, you've got ace-queen, and you're in you're under the gun after the big blind, so you're first to act, say, and you go, right, I've got ace-queen, I've read in my book, this is a premium hand, I'm going to triple the blinds, bang, get a couple of callers, the flop comes down 2-6 jack, and of course now the screen goes blink, and it's your turn to act, and you're like, oh. And a lot of people, again, reflecting on something I said before, a lot of people aren't very good at post-flop play, and they go, I didn't hit any part of it, check. And it's like, well, you just almost broadcast, because most people that are decent players are constantly trying to put you on a range of hands by your betting. And this is one of Casper, our very own Casper Berry's, one of his favourite games is try and guess what people have got just by looking at the amounts they're betting.
Yeah.
So if you make a raise before the flop, you say to me a pocket pair or a ace-king, ace-queen, say. When the flop comes down rags and you check, well, that just makes me believe that even more. Had you, if the flop comes down messy and you're still betting, you either still like what you've got or you've actually hit a part of the flop. So betting, that continuation bet, which we call this, is if you're somebody that initiates action before the flop, when the flop comes down, if you don't keep betting at it, you just wave a big flag that says, oh, I didn't hit it, or I don't like my hand anymore. A lot of clever players will use that against you. Again, that's where you get to the point where the pro players are kind of giving you, misleading signals. So I make a big bet with aces before the flop, and then I check, and people think, oh, he hasn't hit the flop, but you're actually setting a trap.
Well, I was actually going to say that next. Saying, if we raise pre-flop, ace-king, you miss it, you make the bet, blah, 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 blah. What about the check raise there? What if you've missed it and you do a check raise? Is that even stronger, or is that too risky?
Well, the problem is you're just opening the door for opportunities to lose pots, you know, getting involved in hands that you have no right playing. You know, that it really depends on the level you're playing and how clever you think your opponents are. But
or how clever you think you are.
Well, exactly. But I think the thing is, the truth of it is
just so you know, I'm very clever.
Yep, I thought you might think that. I didn't necessarily think that you were, but I thought that you'd think that. The truth you've got, and you know, I urge everybody watching, watch the hands here and watch people's actions, because the truth of it is, most of the time when people check, it's because they haven't got anything and they're hoping for free cards. And when people bet, it's because they've either got position or they actually believe they've got the best hand. All of the bluffing and slow playing and check raising and all that, it really isn't such a huge part of the game at these levels. You know, very high limits, pros, they're playing all sorts of tricks with each other.
Yeah.
But the problem you've got playing at these levels is that playing all these sneaky moves, it kind of assumes that any of the people you're playing against even know what it means. And that's the problem, is quite often you find people and they play when they think they've got a nice pretty hand, they'll fold every now and then, but doing all these sneaky moves, you'll find that generally the best way to play it, and this is Phil Hellmuth got this big deal about, you know, is that you just wait for the hands that you believe to be quality and you play them. Don't be sneaky, don't, you know, if you get dealt pocket aces, don't slow play them, because somebody will call you and outrage you. What about our friend Snowblind? He finally waited, he got his ace king, he just limps in, the guy raises him, I go all in, he gets outdrawn. Is that when you've got the strong hand, play it. If anybody's going to come against you, then great, they've probably got a hand, and if you've got a strong enough hand, you'll probably get paid off. Slow playing and sneaking and check raising, it just kind of invites trouble.
And I want to make a point of what you just said there about giving people too much credit. This is something that I very recently have realised, that I have been given, at the level I'm playing, I have been given my opponents far too much credit. One, I'm making moves which I think they're going to understand, but they don't, so they then don't do what I want them to do. And two, generally, I'm respecting people's raises when I shouldn't be. A lot of the time I am ahead, I'm getting pushed off hands because I'm giving them more credit for the level they're at. Yeah. And it's something you really have to think about, isn't it, when you're playing? Especially if you're playing in a game, maybe if you're slightly above the standards that you're playing in.
Absolutely, and it's a great illustration of why it's so important to concentrate on the game you're playing and to watch people, because you will never work, you know, you will never find that out until you find that out, and that's either going to be at your expense or somebody else's expense. So we sit down and we're playing against Smooth Cut, and we've never played Smooth Cut before and we know nothing about him. Is that we're only going to find out whether he is somebody that we're never going to push off a hand, or we're going to find is somebody that when they raise we shouldn't respect it. You're only going to find that out when you get to a showdown. And of course it's very easy to forget here, because we are fortunate enough to see everybody's whole cards. But if you actually start taking note of how often do these 8 players see each other's hands, it's really, really rare. So you've got to make sure that just because you're out of a hand, you don't switch off, because if Smooth Cut gets into a fight with 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, which is the best low hand you can have in some of the other variations of poker, incidentally, then you go, okay, great, let's finally see some of these guys' cards and find out if he is like playing premium hands, playing junk, pushing me around, But like I say, giving people too much credit, it's crazy, because as you say, I'm going to make it triple the blinds, because I know I've read the books, I've heard what Nick the Hare, TV's Nick the Hare Wealthall told me.
Wonderful.
He said that if I triple the blinds, but if you're playing your mum for the first time ever, she doesn't know that, oh, triple the blinds, is it?
Your mum is a hard person to play, because like my mum's a nightmare to play. She doesn't know what she's got. How am I supposed to read what she's got?
Exactly. Do you know, I've recently wrote something that was saying that's the point, is how can you have a strategy against somebody that can't spell strategy? It's, you know, is that you can be going, I'm going to check raise this, I'm going to slow play my aces, I'm going to You're up against a monkey who's busy stuffing bananas in its ear. It doesn't know what you're doing. If it's got aces, it'll call. If it's got 2, 3, it'll throw it away. But that's the point, is you've got to find...
And they don't take any notice of the odds. The amount of times I'm not giving them odds to call, they still call. Yeah,
there's 200 in the pot and you make a bet of 300 and they go, what, is it my turn to act? What can I do? Oh, I'll call. And you're like, why? Why would you call with 7 jack? And then they go on and the flop goes jack, jack, 7, jack, 7, 7, jacks. And you're like, oh, for God's sake.
But you have to say to yourself, when people are doing these things, whenever one of your opponents makes a mistake, you will take money off them in the long run.
Absolutely, and that's why, if you don't know who you're up against, be tight. Be Phil Hellmuth, play pairs 7 to ace, ace king and ace queen. Because then, at least when you get involved, you're not getting involved just for fun. You're getting involved because you really think, I've got the strong hand here, and if I get some action, I think I'm going to prevail.
And that's what it's all about, prevailing in the end.
Kablooms.
Right, so an email from Mr. Beaver. He says, hey, Poker Night Live, long-time watcher, first-time emailer. I was wondering if you could explain what antes are and when they must be placed. Thanks a lot. This is actually a good question because in some games you have antes as well as blinds, don't you?
Yeah, well, there's different variations. We always watch here on Poker Night Live. We're watching our Texas Hold'em, which features blinds. What you will find is in later stages of big tournaments, as well as blinds, you have antes. So, as well as the blinds going round, an ante basically means everyone that wants to play has to put an amount forward. If you're playing 5-card draw, which is what most people learn as children, like that's the first game you learn, everyone gets 5 cards, and oh, swap, swap, swap. To play, everyone has to put an amount in. Everyone puts 10 pence in who wants to get some cards. You don't see that in Texas Hold'em until the end of very long tournaments. And again, we keep referring back to the World Series. If you've ever watched that, by the end of it, the blinds are 50,000 and 100,000 with a 25, 2,500 ante. So it's basically pressure, pressure, pressure that says you can't just sit back like you could in the cash game, waiting to get dealt some good hands, because the money is being taken out your stack. You're just bleeding chips through the antes and the blinds. You probably won't bump into it here on Poker Night Live, but if you watch any of the massive, massive tournaments televised, you'll see that later on. It's antes and blinds. And in lots of other games like 7-card stud or draw, it's an ante that gets you going. There's no actual kind of blinds working around the table. Different games, different rules.
Okay, and we have an email here from the littlest hobo. He says, Dear Matt, do you think that risking all your chips with an all-in before you make the money is an inevitable move in most sit-and-goes?
And what move?
Wrong.
Is that inevitable or
inevitable? But it's spelled wrong. Inevitable move in most sit-and-goes. This means that even if you're ahead, I'm going to punch you in a minute. You are going to go out 15 to 30% of the time. Is there any way around this?
I didn't hear a word of that, I must say. We've got an email here from Littlest Hobo. Sorry, no. Do you think that risking all your chips with an all-in is an inevitable move? Oh, right, okay.
It's one of those nights tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
In tournaments, you have to expect that at some point, you're not going to get to the final table without at some point making a move, putting all your chips in. It's not necessarily definite, but the truth is, if you're playing in a no-limit tournament, it's one of the weapons you have. Funny enough, I was listening to an interview on the way here tonight that was talking about the difference between limit and no-limit. And once you've played a lot of no-limit, going back to limit games is very hard, because one of the strongest things you can do, I make it 3 times the blind, and Michelle's feeling a bit swift, and she makes it 500, and I go all in. It's like, vroom, pressure.
It is.
And if you don't make use of it yourself, then you're missing out one of the key points of playing no limit. If you're not going to do it, you may as well not be playing no limit.
You may as well be playing limit.
Exactly, and so is it is it something that's definitely unavoidable? Yeah, I think you've got to accept it, and you can't be scared of it. You can't be scared of players doing it to you and you making a good decision at that point. Are they bullying you out with chips? The truth of it is, generally to survive, you don't want to be making these moves against people that got you covered. You're always looking, and that's why we say, on the internet games, you can always see exactly how much people have got. In live games, it's not so easy to constantly be monitoring where they are. But it's one of Johnny Chan, who I normally call Jackie Chan, which is something completely different. But Johnny Chan's big point of tournament success is get to the final table and don't go up against people that have you covered. If you're going to make moves on people, be it where you're putting the pressure on them to leave the tournament, but if they actually win against you, it's not like you're knocking yourself out. So I think, yes, you have to accept that you are going to have to make use of the all-in, but be about where you use it. Do it where you know that it's going to either win you the maximum amount of chips, or if you sense weakness and you think this is the killer blow that's going to bully somebody away, that's where you need to use it. But you do need to get into using it if you're going to play no limit.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Michelle.
If you have any questions for us, do remember that text number is 84222. And the email is poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. And why don't you go check us out on the web while we go off to a break, www.pokernightlive.co.uk. Well, we are heading to a break now, but we've got poker news.
Ooh!
So make sure you catch that. And Matt and I will see you when we return, which will be in approximately 6 or 7 minutes.
That's specific.
So we'll see you then.
Hello there, welcome back to Poker Night Live. It's Matt and Shel with you tonight, but Shel can't come to the phone right now because she's busy trying to beat people at poker.
Matt the Beard Broughton.
Oh, you're back with us now, are you?
Are you going to be playing in the game? When's your next game you're playing?
I never get to play. It doesn't matter which seat I sit in, I never get to play the game.
Well, next time you're on with me, you can play instead of me.
There, now, did everyone hear that? Make a note of that because I am going to be holding Michelle.
But it does mean that I'll be talking about the game for an hour and they might probably
maybe you won't want that. Let's have a vote. Just to remind you folks, we're here until 2 in the morning and there's lots of opportunities to get involved. Please do. Tonight is amateur night. Any and every question you have for myself and tonight's expert, Michelle. Snigger. There's many ways you can get in touch with us. First of all, there is our text number, which has changed recently. So don't forget, it's now 84222, 84222. Text the word poker, followed by your question. And also, please include your name. You can also, stop talking, all right? Just enjoy your game. Email us here, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. And also, don't forget, you can find out much more about us on our website, www.pokernightlive.co.uk. Other than that, while Michelle tries to get involved in some action online, we're going to go back and check out some of our game. We're going to go and take a look at a $10 sit and go.
Nice.
So that's it now. I'm on my own, aren't I?
Yeah.
Until you get donked out.
Donked out.
I'm just going to sit here rambling.
That's fine, so I will help you as I'm not involved in the hand. Oh, wait.
Well, thanks awfully. How's it going so far?
Haven't started yet, actually.
Okay, just so I check.
Just chatting
and
with everybody.
You're just going to wait for 20 minutes, aren't you? Just so that I'm stuck here on my own for an extra amount of time. Well, anyway, folks, ignoring Michelle, who I'm sure is still going to make noises and random comments just to annoy us as we try and enjoy the very best in online internet poker rubber-dub-style action. This is a $10 tournament. Sit and go. Everybody puts $10 in, everyone gets 1,000 chips. The blinds start at 10:20. So everyone gets a reasonable amount of time before the blinds start harassing them. As before, the blinds go small blind to the left of the dealer, big blind to the left of that player. Every single hand the dealer button moves round. And here we see AA has made a move with a pair of sixes and has the worst hand, but the aggressive move with the chips was good enough to push Maxi off. Watch and learn, folks. It's not about the cards every single time. Sometimes it's just about making a move when you sense weakness. Robo Squirrel, watched him the other night. Lots of familiar faces here. Hoofy, good old Hoofy in his favourite seat 3. If you can hear the small sound of gentle woodpeckers in the background, that's actually Michelle chatting up everyone on the table game.
Chatting up everybody.
When you play, be nice to me. Don't make me look bad on TV.
No, they don't.
I'm a celebrity female poker player.
I will stick my pen in your eye if you carry on.
Oh, not the sentence I was expecting. But thanks very much. I will punch you squarely in the nose. I'll mess up your hair and rub your lipstick all up your face. Yeah. You want fighting talk? Well, yeah.
I'll just put the lipstick on you.
Yeah. Oh, I wear it every weekend anyway.
What you're supposed to be doing right now, Matt, is commentating on the old poker game that we can see on the telly.
Don't you tell me my job, Michelle. Michelle. I shall comment on the game when I'm good and ready, as Golden Jaguar sits in last position with a pair of 4s.
I have to get ready to click for my seat anyway.
Yeah, you get ready with a track and field. Well, Robo Squirrel does the right thing, which is believes he has a good hand. The ace is a possible scare card. Just double the big blind, ask the question, we said earlier on. Ask the question. If somebody bets back at you, then you know, ugh, either the ace is out there and I'm beaten, or this guy is playing into me as if he has the ace, and then you have to decide if you fancy fighting.
Yay.
Buffy Be Good has the best of it here in that not only does he have the best hand possible as far as starting hands go, but he's in the big blind. And when you're in the big blind, it's very hard for people to know what sort of hand you have. Will he limp or make a move? Buffy? And the difference when people talk about, you know, should I slow play aces because I'm going to make more money out of it, is that you've got to remember, against 10 players, you'll only win with aces 3 out of 10 times, roughly. Heads up, you're going to win 4 out of 5. So do you want to isolate players and be sure of winning more times than not? Or do you want to have more people in the pot so that your chances of being busted are actually higher, but when you do win, you will make more profit? and only you with experience will learn this. Maxi here is going to have a hard time getting away from this because Maxi sees that they have the top pair, the 10, with the best possible kicker. Buffy's probably gone a bit crackers here, and Maxi there really ignoring the messages. No surprise to see Buffy with the best hand in heads up, taking down the pot. You in, sweetie?
Yeah, we started.
What are you?
Mrs. Bandit's wishing me luck again. Hi, Mrs. Bandit.
Very friendly, aren't they?
They are.
Be nice, be gentle, everyone. Don't be fooled by all that lipstick.
You leave my lipstick alone. Gone for a nice red.
Okay. Well, we've lost one player. Very early, really. We're still at the 10-20 stage. Already lost one. Buffy be good. Making the best of pocket rockets, as we call aces. Willow actually has the best hand, but with 2 overcards. Might not fancy it, but there again, Scotty checked, so Willow makes a bet. If Scotty comes back, you go, arg. But in some cases, you might just win it there. Don't be afraid to bet even when you might possibly not have the best of it, because you'll find out soon enough. If you keep checking, you never know. And when somebody bets at you, you'll probably run away. The blind's this low and you sitting on 1,000 chips, just dedicate a few chips to asking questions. Because you'll find in most instances it doesn't take a lot. You've not got to bet the pot. Betting the big blind or just double the big blind is enough to say, you wanna fight me. And they probably won't. I've never sat next to Michelle this long without actually hearing her, her making
That's because I'm concentrating this
Good.
time.
That's fine.
Because I've
Can
got
I
to try
annoy
and
you
win.
and irritate and distract you by writing rude words on your wrist?
You're supposed to be telling me to concentrate and not chatting the chat thing like James tells me.
You do what you want. I'm not your dad. James probably thinks he is.
Yeah, are you calling me Gobby, as Mrs. Bandit says?
Are you calling me Gobby? What are you called? Chip nurse?
Chip nurse.
What happened to night nurse?
Like, we couldn't get it on this one.
Chip nurse. Stingray. Big move from Jaguar. Back on our blue screen above. Ace 8, not looking quite so nice in the face of that raise. But Ace Queen, that is a quality hand. Is going to be 7-2 favourite. 7-2. I'm just making up odds. 3-4, 5-7. 3-2 favourite with Ace Queen against King 10. And the flop doesn't hit Golden Jaguar in any way, so Willow first position. Difference here is in first position, but with a strong hand, and a flop that somebody is unlikely to have made a raise holding any of those cards. Apart from playing a pocket pair, which Golden Jaguar would have immediately made a bet back at Willow, I'll wager. Willow proving to be a player that knows how to ask questions. Fishhooks. Fishhooks, Michelle. Buffy be good. She's ignoring me now. Quite rightly, no,
I'm
please
playing
do.
a hand against
No, I'm just
Mr.
testing
Steele.
you. I'm testing you. Ace King for Scotty. Fancies a fight. Buffy now, what you going to do? You're going to ask a question, or you're going to limp, or you're going to go crazy and get hurt? That's not too crazy, but there's Scotty kind of answering you. You've got to pay attention here. What's the point of asking the question if you ignore the answer? Jacks are nice, but they're not invincible, and you've paid for another card that hasn't helped you. You're still under the gun, and this is where you'll see about the position we spoke about being so important. Checks into Scotty, who we know is not likely to sit around, goes all in. Excuse me. And Buffy's really just got to let this go. Good fold. Should have folded after the bet on the flop, to be honest. Nothing wrong in having a go. You're first to act. You've got pocket jacks. Have a go, but that ace, when somebody comes back at you, you've really got to let it go. Because if you're calling and crossing your finger and hoping that you hit a third jack. Any other card is really not going to improve your situation. No one here with a particular lead. Golden Jaguar is the only player that's looking a bit wobbly, stack-wise. 3-5 suited. Not really a hand that needs playing right now, I would say. Buffy's going to try and limp in and improve the 7s. Doesn't, but actually still has the best hand. Golden Jaguar picks up the bottom pair. And Scotty picks up the straight draw. And by that we mean that they have 4 cards. So whenever we talk about draws, flush draws, straight draws, it means right now, had a queen come down on the turn or river, that gives Scotty the straight. Ends up with a busted draw. Suited ace-5 on the button for Buffy. A lot of people like to play any hand on the button. Again, we talk about the position, because being on the button, for every round that follows, you're always going to be the last to act. And that's not a bad thing.
How are you doing there, Matt?
I'm doing all right, thank you.
Yeah?
This is, quite a good little game. Boys
Oh,
know a thing or two
Bennett
about
Aces thinks he can raise me, does he?
Oh, does he?
Well,
Oh,
you know
do
what?
you?
This time he can. We'll allow it. I'll let him have that.
I'm not sure about that for Michelle.
Well, you know, it's early on. We'll let him have it.
I think you got away with murder there. You may well laugh. Meantime, Buffy has a nuts draw, and again, terminology-wise, the nuts draw. We talked about the draw. Buffy has 4 spades, 2 more cards to come. If a spade's one of them, Buffy's going to make the flush. But even better is because Buffy holds the ace of spades, as Lemmy would say. That means that should Buffy make the flush, it's going to be the nuts, as in the unbeatable hand. Doesn't. Kings and 10s takes it for Scotty, but didn't cost Buffy too much. Buffy knows not to invest too much money in draws.
Yeah, Bennett says, "Oi, don't commentate on my play." He says, "They're playing me, not you."
No, I've got nothing but respect. I believe that you had the better of Bennett there, and he manages to bully you off.
Yeah, probably.
No, good on you. Good on you, Bennett. You rock and roll, son.
Well, we'll see, won't we? I reckon he just had me, to be honest.
I've only played once and I came 7th, so already.
Did you?
I was doing lots of things at the time, which is my excuse forever. The next game I play where I go out 7th, I'm going to be ruined because I have no good excuse to fall back on. Well, Hoofy has been very quiet tonight here. Hoofy, if you're not familiar, is one of our regular players on the tables. Although actually, pretty much everyone playing right now is... It's a family show. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the party, pal. What film was that from?
Don't know.
See, Nick would know. Casper would know.
Well,
I know.
what do you want, a knowing film certificate?
Look, it's your turn to act. No, it isn't. I was just...
It is, actually, sorry.
Okay, now, Hoofy is slow playing. He has actually hit quad 4s. 4-4s. He's hoping that someone's going to take a little tickle at this. It'd be interesting to see how he plays this. Might just straight call it, which he does. I like that. Now he's first to act. Might check again or might make a little bet. The problem with hitting such a big hand is it's hard to get paid off because everyone's so worried. Now if he makes a bet, it might look like he's trying to steal it. He's actually hit. Actually, yeah, you can't do better than 4-4, so I'm not going to say what I was about to say there. He's made a 6-card full house.
Can we have a big for Nash and Ubers? Because he's not very well. You need to have poorly food, Nash. Go and get yourself some soup.
Exactly, chicken soup and a big bottle of meths. Ace-6. One thing I'm going to say about that Ace-6 call there, I hope Golden Jaguar's not calling that because he's thinking, well, if hearts come down, I've got the nuts. Never play weak aces just because they're suited. The fact that those cards are suited really doesn't make them very stronger mathematically than they are. You know, if you're playing Ace-10 and they're suited, then great, because Ace-10 is a playable hand, and the added bonus of having that potential flush adds weight. But if ordinarily, if that was Ace and 6 offsuit and you wouldn't play it, then don't get involved in that. As it turns out here, it's worked out fine. Robo's got actually the nuts draw here because the ace is on the table and he has the king, so another club would give him an unbeatable hand as far as flushes go. And there it is. There it is. And now Golden has got so much money in the pot, he's probably not going to let this go because he's so pot committed. He's getting such great odds. If he lets this go, I should be impressed because the blinds are only 20-40. He'd still have 330 to play with. Robo Squirrel kind of was hanging around there longer than perhaps he should have done, but he did hit his cards and good luck to you, Squire. He had the draw from the flop. But that ace-6, the other problem you've got if you're Golden Jaguar is if Robo had another ace, how much do you like your kicker? Like I say, if you love playing ace-6, fair dues to you, but don't let a hand you wouldn't normally play become more attractive to you just because they're suited. The chances of flopping the flush
I can't believe what just
are
happened.
118 to 1. That doesn't sound good.
I cannot believe what just happened.
So,
I'm still in.
What's wrong, love?
I folded an ace-10 to a raise, which I probably shouldn't have done, and guess what flops? Ace-10-10!
Well...
Can you believe it? This is what happens to me at the moment.
Why are you folding ace-10?
Because I raised, and then there was a big re-raise, and I thought, if he's re-raised, it means he's probably got ace-10, ace-king, ace-queen, in which case I'm dominated.
Look, they're waiting for you.
Oh, it's my turn. I'm annoyed at that.
Waiting for you to fold your junk.
Is that right, why we're asking? I'm thinking I've raised, he's re-raised, so he's probably got an ace-king, an ace-queen, an ace-jack.
No, absolutely. Certainly in the tournament, you've still got a lot of chips left in play. Better safe than sorry, no one wants to look stupid on the TV.
No.
Despite the lipstick, I think you
that's
agree with me.
Mr. Tragic there, I'm going to get him.
Don't spoil it, we've got to watch this. It's like we're watching this game twice. We're watching it once real time, then we're going to watch it again at 12 o'clock.
Getting me moody about it
And
as
this,
I'm playing
in case
it.
you are new to us, folks, this is every night, Beat the Presenter. At 11 o'clock, your chance to pull the trousers down of whoever's presenting. And then at 12 o'clock, after the break, half-time, we'll watch the game with expert pull-apartness as I rip into every move. Be it good or bad, it's in my contract that I have to attack. If I had a contract. Buffy be good, ace-jack suited. Robo's got the top pair with a decent kicker. And Buffy checks, which kind of to me
Buffy
says...
Buffy be good talking on here. That's weird, isn't it?
Oh, scary. People multi-tabling. Some people have got way too many monitors. Robo's loving it. We've lost another player. Golden Jag. Who I think crippled himself, really. And Hoofy... We know Hoofy's an experienced player. Hello, Hoofy. Sitting back very quietly, waiting for people to knock each other out. If you're not getting the hands, don't get bored, don't feel you've got to get involved. And you'll see that as we bounce between the $5 tourney, the $10 tourney, the sit and goes, the cash games, you see a lot of the same names because people multi-table. And one of the reasons people play on more than one game at once is to stop themselves from getting bored. Hello, Hoofy. Cheers, mate. But patient play, because at some point you'll get the hands. The blinds aren't that aggressive that your stack is under threat. And while you're sitting there, people will knock each other out. Again, boringly referring to the World Series final, we were watching Joe Hashem in our underwear. And the guy moved up 3 spots. He didn't play a hand for a lot of the last table. Other people getting involved in hands while he was sitting patiently. And every little chunk he moved up, he made more money. Well, AA probably a bit gutted to have run out of money. Leaves Robo with a little bit of money to play with. Hopefully Robo will realise it doesn't need to go all in on that hand. But Robo looking wounded. Wounded. Jack 9. Gets a flat call from Willow with King 10 suited. Now feeling the pressure of position, obliged to make a move, and AA didn't hit the flop, nor did Willow, but Willow took the initiative. And Willow gets rewarded by the poker gods in the sky with an ace-king offsuit. Buffy's probably going to play this. Interesting to see how. In a relatively early position. Going to make a raise here. Nope, just a flat call. Ace-king, I'm sure, unless they're going to be a bit sneaky, should really move here. Good move. Robo's decided, no, that's it. Buffy may now let this go, possibly. Got 3 players here. One is all in, so they're not going to go away, so they could easily outdraw. And Buffy is going to love this. 2 pair, only the straight. Now only a 10 would ruin the day. And isn't that just the way poker is sometimes? 10, Jack, Queen, King, Ace. Wowie. There you go, just to show you what was going on there. So Buffy flopped 2 pairs. Willow hit top pair with a king kicker. And only a 10's going to build the straight, which it does do. Robo Squirrel leaves us. Cheers, Robo. And Buffy has a big chunk of chips stolen. Thief.
Is he a Tiva?
Pardon?
Is he a Tiva?
A Tiva, is that Braintree speak for thief?
No.
You just made up.
Just tell him where I live.
Well, I didn't say your address. They're not going to be driving around Braintree, everyone. Big place, you know. Look for the signs, the National Trust brown sign saying Michelle's house, brackets, that one off TV.
I'm going to throw eggs at it. Don't.
Hoofy, going
Where
to
do
give us
you
a
live?
quick masterclass. Where do I live? Hornchurch. There, see? We revealed all. I'm sure there won't be people stalking Hornchurch tomorrow. Outside the Tesco's, waiting for me to stop by for my cucumbers. Hoofy's got the best of it, but even that doesn't look too cracking. I'd love to tell you why Michelle's laughing, but I can't because it would compromise the game she's playing. Flush draw for AA. Oh, there's Michelle stuffing her face with a sandwich. Who would have thought? Yeah, don't get away with anything for free around here. God, how unlikely is that? Oh.
You're going to get it, Broughton.
Gosh, how unlike you. How unladylike.
Everybody's coming on here saying, nice shot, Michelle, you got the nibbles, you hungry?
You missed it. If only you'd seen her about 5 seconds before that, she was like a pelican who'd just been fed like a small fish as she threw her head back. The difference is birds can't swallow. They've got a reason to throw their heads back, trying to get a sandwich to go down their throat.
Have you finished yet?
No, I haven't. Not even slightly. Queens! No, there are no queens. Just thought I should say the word queens, just in case anyone was watching. Pair of 6s for AA on the button. Scotty has checked with 8s, which is actually the better hand, but a nice bit of aggression from AA. Scotty gives it up. See there? Again, folks, it's all here for you to see, the aggressive play.
I believe that. I must have clicked sit out by mistake. Well, I think when I was doing that, I missed my turn. I've just folded a pair of 7s. When I could have stole the blinds because everyone checked round to me. Matt, that's your fault.
Good. See, some of us come here to work. I know that some of us come here to play poker online and eat, which would be lovely. I'd love to do that. I'd love to just sit here, you know, pack lunch, bit of poker online. Well, Buffy, I'm afraid, leaves us.
I'm trying to put on weight because Dr. Demi said I was looking a bit thin.
Dr. who?
Demi.
Is that your doctor, or is that like a friend of Dr. Tom's?
No, he's on the forum.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm always being told to put on more weight by the forum. Matt, they said, you look so skinny. As I wheel myself into the studio. Well, these guys, they've still got plenty of chips. The blinds have gone up to 81.60. Our chip leader, Willow, who's had some good hands and also some good moves. Scotty is down just under the grand. Hoofy is just over a grand. And double A, 2,300. Pair of 9s could be good enough for Willow to make a move, but there goes AA. That's a strange call for me with Willow. I think with a pair of 9s, you've either got to give it up suspecting a better starting hand, which actually hasn't improved on the flop, but there you go. But you've got to suspect a better starting hand than the 9s, which have a very high percentage of chances seeing overcards, or make a move. As it goes, the flop came down in a non-threatening way for a pair of 9s. Be interesting to see if Scotty gets any value out of his aces with a pair of 6s. I could see Scotty making a pretty big move here. A couple of hundred maybe. 320, there you go. 6s might just flat call this and hope the flop does something. Speculative heads up, but here we go. Okay, well that's... we'll see what the flop does, but I'm not going to be happy to see Scotty turn over her aces. I'm probably glad that Scotty's not got much more money, otherwise I think all of the 990 would have gone. Wow, would you believe it? 4 clubs on the board gives AA the flush, but the full house. Aces full of 9s goes to Scotty. Some big hands fall in there. And now it is AA who is short stacked. But still plenty of chips to play with. And that's another thing to monitor when you're playing is, you know, you get a variety of online tournaments. Some are turbo, the blinds move very quickly. Some of the blinds are like controlled by the number of hands. Some the blinds are actually time sensitive. Don't start panicking when you've still got chips left. You know, here the big blind's 160, so 1,600 will give you 10 big blinds. Still got plenty of play here. Obviously, that with four players, the blinds are coming round to you quite regularly. But here we are on the bubble, and by that we mean the next person to go out will be the first person to leave the game that doesn't make any money. Top 3 are paid out here. First prize is 50%, then 30%, then 20%. Which in this case is easy to work out even for me without a calculator like Mr. Browning walks around with. $50, $30, $20. Michelle's looking at me for guidance, but I'm saying nothing.
Well, now you've told them that obviously I haven't got that great hand, so I'm going to fold.
You don't think that's that great a hand?
No, it is, but now you've said that, I'm going to fold.
No,
plus
what
I've
I
had
said
it
was
last
you looked
3
at me
times
for...
in a row and lost with it, except for once.
Well, that's why I just said she was looking at me for guidance. I didn't say with a real rag or with a power hand. I just kept, you know, don't look at me. You look at me like, you know, what? What do you want?
Apparently you're wrong.
What's sandwiches? Do you want a shovel? A vat of wine, perhaps?
Yes, please.
Hoofy is in with power 8s. Sadly, though no pairs of 8s are to be stroked and loved. The river doth not treat him well, and the aces and 2s for Willow. Sees Hoofy. Unlucky Hoof, mate. Another time, another pot. You have to realise with tournament play that the variance is huge, and when we talk about variance we mean the amount of investment you'll make versus the amount of return, because the return in tournaments is huge comparatively. Take our multi-table tournament that we're going to visit again shortly. $10 in, $414 is the payout, so that's a massive return. But of course you've got to get through 138 players. But you only need to win 1 every now and then, and of course that's making financial sense. But you've got to realise that if you lost 10 in a row, you can't feel too down. You lose 10 in a row, that's $100. You win 1, bang, you're going to make 400. Michelle just slapped me. I don't want to trouble you at home. I've just been hit by Sandwich Girl.
You can't call me Sandwich Girl.
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you through the chicken mayonnaise then. Spray that to me one more time, big boy. Well, Scotty picks up some chips with the best of it. 7-9 suited. Don't know if I fancy that, but luckily everybody folds and he just picks up the blinds. Don't forget, the reason that Michelle's talking through sandwiches is because she's playing our Beat the Presenter game tonight, which we're going to pick up after 12 o'clock, and marvel at some of the ludicrous decisions she's made. Or swoon at some of the awesome play. Watch her power check her way through a tournament. Well, the 2 isn't much of a kicker, but he's actually turned into 2 pairs for Scotty. And Willow is more than happy to keep financing it, ignoring the ace on board. Never mind the fact that it's 2 pair. Just the ace should be enough to scare you, but Willow's going to give a $5.5 grand pot to Scotty. More than happy. Look at that. Queens is great, right up until the point that overcards come down and somebody's betting at you consistently, time and time again.
Someone's saying woof woof at me, and I'm not quite sure how to take that.
Woof woof, Shell. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything. I'll just get slapped again. Well, Scotty's probably going to like this. AA could milk this, actually. If only they could see the cards. Wouldn't it be much easier? Much better game if you could just see the cards. All this nonsense. Be a disciplined fold here to give this up. But the truth is right now Willow is starting to worry, because Willow can't afford another circuit of the table here. It's going to cost you 480 to survive a circuit of big blind and small blind, and Willow is down. So at this point you could afford to maybe think, well, maybe I fancy fighting you, but not tonight, because if I just sit back and wait for the blinds to chew you up or force you to go in with lesser hands. Well, a 3 and an 8 isn't good enough for AA, and Willow's ace high on top of the 7s on the board. And now, this is going to be all in, I think, for AA. Pocket pair, it's not the biggest pocket pair, but I spoke about this a bit earlier on. When you get down to 3-handed, you're not going to expect to see the premium hands. You'll see a lot of people, as soon as they've got a king in their hand, they're going to make a move. Got an ace in their hand, they're definitely going to make a move. A pocket pair, anything. You're going to see lots of races, and when we talk about races, we talk about somebody with high cards going up against a small pair. Here, this is going to hurt Scotty. I think Scotty's going to make a move here. Willow could well go, yep, I was going to say all in, but he's decided to leave himself 460, but there's no way Scotty's not going to make a move with pocket 5s. Going to be quite sick to see the kings from Willow. AA had one of the kings, should a 5 come down, it would make it harder for Willow to pick up a king to trips, but that's not going to happen. Kings and 7s, going to beat 5s and 7s. Scotty probably going to make another move here. Won't let the last hand deter him, because he knows that short-handed, getting pocket pairs versus pocket pairs doesn't happen a lot. Ace 3, there's trips for Scotty, not that he needed it. Full house even, should I say, with the 4s on board. 4 in the flop, 4 on the turn, 6 on the river. And we are down to heads up. Shell still shoveling sandwiches. On to a 16th pack now. Pocket 7s for Willow, unlikely to do a flat call here. Well, it's probably a bit excessive, to be honest, but gets the job done. To be honest, the pocket pair in heads up is too good to in my opinion, maybe you want to argue with me, but to just make such a big move and pick up the blinds, you've probably got to be a bit more speculative. You're probably not mental to imagine that you've got the best of it as starting hands goes. But who knows? Had the flop come down full of overcards, got about 95% chance of seeing overcards with a pair of pocket 7s, so fair dues to you. King in the hand might be good enough for Scotty to make a move. He does. Willow gives it up. And that's what I was saying, is when you get down to heads up, really, king or ace, you see a lot of players just automatically fire off a bet. Suited connectors, 5, 6 for Willow. Suited because they're the same suit, and connected because they're right next to each other. So great for building straights, but not without some help for the flop, which Willow doesn't get. And Scotty is just starting to edge away here. The blinds are pretty big. Just jumped up to 640, 1280. And Scotty building up momentum here. And we talk about table presence. You can just feel that Scotty's on a move. Willow's going to make the move with the 5s, gets called. Only a king's going to spoil it now. 2, 3, 4, 5, no. Willow's back in the fight. Ace 3 suited, not good enough for Scotty to hand back the lead. And look at these hands, 8, 3, 8, 6. Queen Jack is good, and that's going to be worth making a move. An 8 for Willow, a Jack for Scotty, another Jack for Scotty, and that, friends and family, trips versus trips. Scotty ends up with a full house. There you are, a couple of full houses battling out at the end. How's that sandwich going down, Shell?
It's gone, it's done. Can't believe
Well, there you are. That was
Can't
good.
believe you.
Shell's still fighting the fight. She's
fighting.
She's had her sandwiches. I'm going to pick up some emails.
I needed the energy.
Don't you worry about anything. I'll be fine.
If you need a hand with any of the big words, let me know.
What? Inevitable. Okay, we have an email from Mr. Beaver. Thanks very much indeed for your email. Hi guys, was recently in a $10 3-table tournament and managed to get down to the last 8. Well done, great stuff. We'd love to hear about your results. I was short stacked and on the big blind. I'd been dealt big slick, which is ace king if you're not familiar with that terminology. Big slick suited, even better, and raised it 4 times the big blind. The big blind position then re-raised it to half my stack, around 2,000 chips. Blinds were at 300, 600, and I decided to push all in. Okay. The guy called and I ended up losing to pocket 4s. Finishing second place outside the money in the tournament. Would you consider this a bad play, or do you think I should have waited for a better time to push? The truth is, big slick is, you know, ace king is a good hand to make a move with. Though we often say, well, you've made a move, you've made it 4 times the big blind, and then the guy has made it 2,000. But what are you going to put him on? You're going to put him on the same hand, maybe ace king or ace queen or a pocket pair. So you probably know that you're going into a race, which we spoke about earlier on, which is where you've got something like ace king versus pocket 4s. In this instance, his 4s have held up, but you've got a good chance of hitting something. So the truth is, I think it's one of those things where you're going to have to expect that the more tournaments you play, the more often this happens. You get called upon, you know that you could be going into it beaten, or at least in a very similar hand, and it could well be a coin flip. We had an email earlier on saying, should I expect it to be inevitable, or whatever the word was Michelle invented, that you're going to have to go all in tournaments. You know what? Don't let it change the way you play ace king. You did the right thing in that we had an email much earlier on about somebody who waited for ace king and then limped in, and then it all went horribly wrong. At least the thing here is that you made the move. When the guy makes the big move back, you've got to decide, do you know what? There's a lot of hands worse to go into a fight with than ace king. So if you want to be ultra protective and you're trying to get in the money, maybe you let it go. But actually, I think I'm gonna do what you did, which is always play the ace king. And if you get outdrawn, you get outdrawn. Well, thanks very much indeed. Thanks very much for your email. We're going to pick up another quick email. Are you all right there?
I didn't know you were back in vision.
Just not listening at all, is she? I mean, why is she here? Just if you want to go and get some more sandwiches.
The tournament.
Oh, really? Don't say anything. We don't want to know.
Anything.
Okay. We've got an email here for you, Michelle. Email from Julian. Nice. Evening, guys. I play a lot of sit and goes, and I make a good profit. Brilliant. But I want to try cash games to increase my profits. The cash games I've played have not been very profitable. In fact, I'm losing. I don't want to jump into $1 games just yet, so I've started at the $10 limit levels, which is where Michelle plays. I play tight aggressive, but I get called by half the table and lose most of the time. It's making me become a caller just like the others. Should I stick to my sit and go games, or should I be playing higher stakes? Also, would you choose limit or no limit? The truth is, you've got to stick to your strengths. Don't feel obliged that you have to play lots of different games. You've got to play 7 and Omaha and cash. And if you're playing in no-limit tournaments and you're having success and you're making profit, then brilliant. If you feel you want to expand and go and play cash games, brilliant. But you do need to realise it is a different game. You will find that people are more likely to do what you're talking about here, which is calling and calling and calling, because in a tournament you have that extra pressure of actually being possibly knocked out. And that has a big impact. In a cash game, people are more likely to chase draws because they're getting the odds to, and if they lose, it's not like they're going home with their hat and coat. They can either reload or they've got chips left. Also, when you're talking about playing in the 10-cent games, the only problem you get is that you might be up against people who really actually, that's not an amount of money they care about. So when you put somebody to a question like, bang, do you want to play for this 10 cents? They're like, nah, whatever. It may as well be a kind of a freebie game. Limit and no limit, experiment with them, but the games are hugely different, and I think a lot of people, because mostly the games we show are games that are shown televised on TV, they're all no limit and they're all tournaments. So people have this residual education that they're picking up from watching. Muck around with them, but expect that you might have to go through a losing streak, but you're going to get any education. But maybe what you need to do is use the profits you make from your tournaments to finance your cash investigation. But keep us posted, Julian. Let us know how you get on, see what you learn, anything you want to share with us. If there's anybody out there that's gone from playing on the tournaments to playing cash games and thinks they've got any information that would help Julian, let us know and we'll pass it on. Other than that, we are going to now jump down to our multi-table tournament and see how the boys are getting on.
Yep, I'm done, so I can help you now.
Oh no.
I'm just saying thanks to all the people on the What's It who are all saying.
On the What's It, on the doodah.
Hello, and thanks for playing. And
that's
blah,
nice.
Blah, blah.
It's a big friendly loving. Okay, so here we are. This is, as we've already spoken about, this is our multi-table tournament that we're going to bounce on and off all night long. Started off with 138 players. And right now we are following one of our big chip boys, Superlight, down in table on seat number 5. He has got over 10 million chips, 10,000 should I say. But the shortest stack, 4,120. Still plenty of action. The blind's at 200, 400. So these boys, they're not too shabby.
Right. So what advice can you give me then? Because I'm playing in it on Tuesday, in a multi-table tournament on Tuesday.
Well, the truth is, Michelle.
Yep.
I think you've got 2 options.
Okay.
The most oft-spouted bit of kind of advice for multi-table tournaments, you know, you've got a lot of people to get through. So you either want to be tight and aggressive early in the game. So don't get drawn into games that deplete your chips, sorry, into hands, should I say, that deplete your chips. Don't get into fights early on that really aren't worth fighting over. Because what you want to do is, you know with 138 players that there's going to be a bunch of people who are far more aggressive than you, are far more want to get into it. A lot of people go into these multi-table tournaments thinking, I either want to like make a big move early, because I don't want to sit here limping around for 4 hours. So they come in very aggressively because they either want to double up and make a big move and be a chip leader, and then they can start pushing their weight around. Or they want to be out of it. No one wants to sit around for 4 hours and then get knocked out in the bubble. So you either have to identify these guys and hopefully they're going to kick each other around.
Yeah.
But what I personally like to do in the multi-tables is knowing that you start with that bit more in chips, you get 1,500 here, not the 1,000 that most of our tournaments are, is actually in a late position, I will get involved in slightly more speculative hands.
Okay.
Because as long as you're late in position, and it's cheap to do so, why not have a look with smaller pocket pairs, things like Jack 10? Because you have the implied odds that says more people are going to be kind of trying to get into the game cheaply here, more people are going to be doing that other strategy of being super tight. So you might just find yourself into some hands with, with cards less than you'd normally like to play. But if you do get lucky on the flop, bingo, no one's really likely to put you on these kind of hands and you might get a bit of a payoff. And also, if you don't hit the flop and people bet at you, you can let it go and you've not invested
things
a
like
huge
Jack
amount.
10?
Yeah, something like Jack 10, because Jack 10 is not something I normally want to make a move with. But if here I'm in a late position and it's cheap to get in, the beauty of it is that if I've got 1,500 and it costs me 20 to have a look at the flop, well, I'll do that, because if somebody makes bets at me and there's an ace and a king on the board, well, I get out of it. But the times that I might connect, it might just give me an opportunity to accumulate chips that otherwise I would not give myself the option to have a go at.
The problem with things like Jack 10s is even if you hit your Jack or your 10, you don't know you're ahead, because someone could easily be out there with a Jack.
And that's where you're paying attention to the sequence of play, you're paying attention to the betting, and that's why I say importantly that's, you know, it can be dangerous advice, but that's why you only need to do that in a late position, because at least in late position, like I say, you play Jack 10, if you hit the Jack, you don't know that your 10's a good kicker. If you're in late position, at least you're going to have the advantage of watching the bet go round. There's a bet and then a re-raise. Do you know what? Get out. Just get out of that now, because it doesn't smell like you've got the best hand. You've only invested a tiny percentage of your chips. But you might just find that sometimes you're hitting the kind of flops. You know, you play ace-4, and he comes down ace-4 in the board, and it's not something that you'd normally be in a situation to do. But you can capitalise. The problem with being super tight is that you're just missing lots of opportunities to accumulate chips. And we know, because we get lots and lots of emails that come in from people that play multi-table tournaments. They get to the middle part of the tournament, and they just find that there's a big, you know, the big stacks are on their table, and they're getting kicked around. And you think, well, why have those guys got the big stacks? They can't have just been really much more lucky than you. They've probably just been involved in more pots. All the guys that get knocked out of the tournaments, that's where the chips are going. You're sitting there waiting for ace-king and pairs of aces. You're not going to be picking up these other pots that might possibly come your way. So I would say be tight, but feel free to get involved in late position if people are limping, and a lot of people are early stages of the tournament. They just want to kind of get their groove on, just, you know, get into gear.
Just play tight to start with, maybe limp in with some more speculative hands in late position.
In late position.
Be able to put it down if...
That's the key thing, is that that's a strategy that only works as long as you're prepared to let it go. Have a little investment, see if you hit something. If you don't, let it go. And it sounds a bit like kind of, well, what's the point of doing that? But on the occasions that you do hit something, you're involved in a pot, you might just accumulate chips. If you're just waiting for aces and kings, you're just going to watch it go by, and other people will be accumulating those chips. The blinds might not be hurting you, but you'll end up one of those people that gets to the middle part of a tournament, and you appear to be like far short stack compared to everybody else.
In these tournaments, do you have to take risks, big risks, to get your stack up, put you in good stead for the latter stages of the tournament?
You don't have to take big risks, but the truth is that you'll end up putting yourself in a position where later on you do have to take big risks, because the tables will break down and you'll move to a table where you've got 3,000 and you're sitting next to the guy with 10,000, guy with 20,000, guy with 15,000. So at that point, suddenly you're going to realise that to compete with these guys, a bit like something I said earlier on about going up against people that you have covered, everyone's got you covered. So you going all in, it might give them good odds to call you, because it's not going to knock them out of the tournament. You're clearly somebody that didn't get involved in hands earlier on, so you've not got the chips to go. So it's kind of like you've got to decide, do you want to go crazy early on and you either bust yourself out or you get yourself a big chip accumulation? Or do you want to kind of like just do what's necessary to survive, but then possibly face like monster chip stacks coming back at you? But you've got to take into account your own playing style. If your playing style is more effective when you're tight and focused, well then you've got to go with it. But
it'll be interesting to see what you think of my tourney after the break.
Oh Lord.
No, you can be honest, it's fine. Have you done the email from Illy?
No.
Okay, got an email from Illy. Says, hi M&Ms. Very good.
Nice.
Nice. He says, definitely worth practicing heads up, because we were talking about this earlier. He says, even just a few 10-cent sit and goes or something to improve on the tactics. I'd only ever played 9-handed cash games online when I entered a big free roll for the first time, and somehow fluked my way to the final table, then to the final 3, and it was at that point my inexperience of very short-handed games caught me out. I'm embarrassed now to look back and think how bad I was at the sharp end of the tourney. It is really a totally different kettle of fish from the more populated tables, and why would anyone put a fish in a kettle?
Hey!
It's a good point. Advice, please, on how best to play turbo sit and goes. 9-handed with the blinds going up every minute. I sometimes play them when I'm short of time, but my results are very poor compared to when I play standard length games. Blinds drop every 8 minutes, and even poorer compared to my extended game. Blind raise every 12 minutes. Sit and go record. Great show. What's the advice?
Okay, well, first of all, with the turbo tournaments, the truth is, if it's not a format that suits you, don't play it. With the turbo tournaments, you've got the blinds going up so much faster that you've obviously, it's a bit like we said, you've got to be a player that's good at being a bit more speculative. You've got to be good with your chips. You've got to sense weakness and position. You've got to be stealing blinds. If that isn't a strong part of your game, then don't play that format. That's the beauty of online, is that there's so many options, whatever blinds you want, whatever levels you want. So just maybe back off from those. Stick to what you're successful at. Until you're able to sit down comfortably and try out some different styles, but you are going to need to get much more aggressive in the turbos, because the blinds just aren't going to let you hang around and play your normal game. As far as the points you make about the tournaments and using the heads up, I really, again, I already said it, but really emphasise that. So many people are brilliant at playing big multi-table tournaments. They're good at playing the sit and goes, but when they do get down to the heads up, they got no experience. They played 1,000 games where they came 6, but they've never got down to the last 2. So yeah, absolutely do make use of that online heads-up opportunity.
We've got an email here from Tango Mike. He says, hi guys, great show. I was playing in a play Money and Go recently when I suddenly got a load of abuse directed my way. I was accused of shill betting. I have no idea what shill betting is. Can you explain? I have no idea what I did to upset this guy.
Well, shills is a really old term that you don't really see very often. Shills are basically the name given to players that are hired by the house. So this is more of a reference to like kind of bricks and mortar casinos, where they want to get a game going, and you would have people employed by the casino to sit into the game to make the action, to give people stuff to play about. You don't tend to get much of that online. You used to years and years ago, like 10 years ago when internet poker started, to get some action going. The truth is, I'm really amazed that anyone would claim that you're a shill and give you a hard time and throw abuse your way. If you feel you're being victimised, the best thing to do is to report it. You know, all of these online sites, they offer lots of, you know, customer support. If you think you're being victimised, then make a noise about it. But certainly you shouldn't let it affect your game. Or at best, press the ignore button and just don't pay any attention to the chat, because sometimes if chat's not coming your way, just ignore it. You don't want that to like throw you off your game or influence the moves you make. But strange, I've not heard shills in years.
No.
It's all good stuff, but
boy.
it doesn't happen too often, since I was a wee lad.
Right, well, we do have to go now. Do come back after the break to watch me play and beat the presenter in the $5 sit and go tournament I was in. See how well I did. For now, we are heading to a break. Watch the poker news, and Matt and I will see you shortly. Good evening. Oh, good morning. Welcome back to Poker Night Live with Michelle and Matt.
Hello.
You did very well in the last segment on your own, by the way.
Thanks, it was very lonely.
Well, we are learning how to play poker tonight. If you would like to learn how to play the game, that's fine. You can watch me in the Beat the Presenter tournament next.
Lots to learn.
Lots to learn, yes. How did I do? Well, we're going to be showing that in a minute, so you'll be able to find out. Quickly, if you do have anything you'd like to ask or any comments to make, here's the text number. You should know it by now, 84222. And the email, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. And do remember to visit the web, but not right now, do it when we go to break.
Yeah.
www.pokernightlive.co.uk.
Why would you want to go to the web right now? There's us, grinning at you.
Right, we've got an email here from Ed. He says, "Hi, I've been playing for about 2.5 months now. I've started to play $2 multi-table sit and goes with 30 players. I was just wondering how many games should I expect to win? How do I know if I'm good or just lucky when I'm playing? I usually end up in the top 5 when I'm playing. Should a good player expect to end up in the money all the time?"
When should I expect to win? You should never expect to win, is the honest truth with tournaments. If you just happen to be chatting with Greg Raymer, if you talk to any of the guys that have been the big tournament winners, they never ever go into a tournament expecting to win, because they will always say to you, winning tournaments is about making good decisions. Every time you have to make a decision, you make a good decision and you don't get unlucky. Because that's the problem is, you might lure somebody in, fished you in with my aces, and he's got a pair of sixes, and sixes come down in the flop. You've not done the wrong thing, but there is an element of getting unlucky. So the truth is, you can't really ever expect to win. You should be able to win a decent percentage of the amount you're going to. You shouldn't play 100 games and not be coming into the money. With tournaments, there's a huge variance. We spoke about this before. Taking a multi-table tournament as an example, $10 to enter, $400 plus is the winning. So even if you lost 10 of these games, when you do pick up a money, you're going to get a big payment back. So the truth is that some of these guys you see in these big tournaments, they get knocked out after 5 minutes. They just walk away. It's just water off a duck's back, because they know that they're going to have to play through a lot of tournaments to get into the money. As far as, is it just luck? Luck will only get you so far. Luck will win you the occasional hand where you're actually going into it heads up, the underdog. Luck won't consistently win you tournaments. That's about making good decisions every time somebody asks a question to you. But keep us posted. Let us know how you get on. Good players will prevail. Otherwise, you wouldn't get these guys constantly getting to the final tables of all the big tournaments. They can't just be the luckiest guys on the planet.
It's funny you should say it, though, because we were just talking about that, weren't we? Before.
Yes,
I was saying what a bad loser I am, and I don't graciously go, crap, I get the hump and have to shout at people. And you were saying now that if you see all these really good players, that they lose, and that's fine.
Yeah, and it surprised me, I must admit, because it's only in the last 6 months I've actually travelled out with some of these guys, Julian Gardner, Greg Raymer, some of the big names in terms of, they get knocked out, fine. They move on because they know that's the way tournaments go. They can't have any expectation of winning because it's unrealistic. We're looking at people, 138 guys playing. These guys are playing 2,000 people, 3,000, 6,000 in the World Series. There's no way you can play that many people and expect to just win it. You can expect to have the edge over a certain amount of those guys, but that still makes you, 1 in 50 rather than 1 to 138. So you've got to go into tournaments. Don't worry about it. Just think about playing your best game, make the right decisions. If you don't get unlucky, you will get further than most people.
Right, well, we're going to head over to Beat the Presenter.
Hey, I've got my stick ready.
I'm going to get a slap every time I do something wrong.
No, hey, that's not my style.
Well, look, there I am in my usual seat 1. And look, I've got an ace 10. I get a large amount of ace 10s in this tournament.
I did look over and see you with ace 10 oft.
And my idea with ace 10, I actually just limped in here because it was the first one I was chatting to everyone, but usually my rule with ace 10 is I want to raise with it, but I don't want to call a raise with it.
Have you any idea why Aunt Sally just threw away pocket aces?
Did she? Oh, she's probably sat away.
Ah.
And I took so long because I was chatting.
So you've just said you like to raise rather than call, and you've called.
Yeah,
so
but
what
I did say
happened
to you, didn't I? I said I was chatting, and that's why it took me so long. And see, so that's a bad thing. Don't be chatting, concentrate on what you're doing. And I realised it was me, and I was like, oh, whoops, so I just quickly called. Whereas usually my rule with ace-10 is raise with it, but don't call raise with it.
Well, look, they've all checked round to you. What are you going to do here?
I think I'm just a bit worse and just keep checking. I know I raised.
That's a good move. Well,
yeah, exactly. That's what I would usually do, of course.
Wizard's got the up and
check
down
round
straight.
to me. I've got position, so raise it up.
Yeah. Wizard, fancy this. Got up and down straight draw, but doesn't want to look silly. No,
this is brilliant because I was thinking about the continuation bet we were talking about earlier.
Fantastic. And now, do you fire another shot?
Yeah.
Good. Good girl.
And I made it a little bit more expensive.
Oh, you did. It's a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
But that's probably good enough. Wizard really just hanging around.
Wanted to put, I should have put in more, shouldn't I? It's difficult though, because if I start putting in more, it starts becoming a lot more to my stack.
Yeah, no, I mean, the truth is, you actually haven't hit anything, so you are just relying on your ace being the best hand.
I didn't feel they had though, I really felt like
well, that's the good thing. If you feel like you're in a winning position, you fire chips at the pot. Because if he had anything and he comes back at you, then you've got a completely different decision to make, haven't you?
Yeah. As usual, there'll be plenty of mistakes, but there'll also be some good things.
But that's a good thing, you know.
So we're going to learn.
Nobody starts off knowing everything.
And also, you know, pressure of live TV. You don't want to look silly, so you make different decisions than you would at home. Really sounds like I'm just trying.
You're just building up as many excuses. Also, I'd hurt my leg a bit earlier on in the day. I walked into a door. Also, I wasn't feeling myself.
Finger and maybe the mouse was a bit sore.
And of course, you were also busy stuffing sandwiches in your face, weren't you? I mean, that's got to put you off.
I would never eat while I'm working.
You do know that actually we came back in vision and we all saw you ramming sandwiches up your nose. Aunt Sally,
not really what I was doing.
Aunt Sally folded the aces earlier on. We suspect she was not there. Is Aunt Sally here now with the kings? If Aunt Sally was sitting away from the PC.
She won't be happy, will she?
Missed a few big uns. 9-10 suited connectors for Kevin, the cut-off being the position before the button. It's the second best position to be in. Doesn't fancy that. I'm surprised. Again, talking about the advice I gave Michelle a bit earlier on, I might have been tempted to limp in there.
If you've got something like aces, what position would you rather have it in?
As to where I'd just rather have aces, to be honest. Just having aces I'm good for. It doesn't matter. I have a variety of different ways in which to play aces depending on my position. If I'm early, I might actually be tempted to limp in.
Look, I've got ace king, yay.
I know. And how are you gonna work it, baby, on the big blind? Are you gonna ride it like the big hand it is?
Like a raise.
Or are you gonna go, oh, I just called, oh, fingers crossed.
I raised. Oh no, there was a raise. I re-raised.
Good. A lot of people would have just called. A lot of people that are planning going, ace king, I'm going to raise this, and then somebody raised, they go, well, I just call in. It's like, no, you've got to go back on top of them.
Because it's not a made hand yet, and I don't want to take any huge chances to give them free cards to outcall me.
No, I'm jolly happy with that, because look what Kev's attempted to do.
And look at what he's doing, and I was like, what has he got? And I thought, still with ace king.
Oh, that's a lovely flop.
Unfortunately, he's not got anything.
Well, exactly. What do you do here? What are you thinking?
Right. Do you know what I was thinking? I'm sure that was there was.
I'm thinking. I'm really hungry. I'm thinking. I'm going to type in something amusing. I'm
checking to try and get him to bet at me.
No, that's fair dues. The thing is, it is such a scary flop. The thing you've got to worry about.
I'm worried about the straight.
But considering he did so much betting and raising and calling, are you not scared that he's got a part of the straight draw? You're not trying to, not tempted to make a bet out?
Well, I did think about the straight, but I thought, hey, there's just the two of us. He could have the straight, but I thought I wanted him to bet at me. So I thought, you bet at me, I'm going to re-raise, and if you do get jiggy with me, then I'm a bit getting told. But I just didn't. I don't know. I suppose I should have been a bit worried about it, but I just didn't think. I was like,
because obviously Jack Queen. I mean, and this is a point to anyone watching, is that you're looking at him trying to put him on a hand. What might he have called raises with before? And right now, the worst hand to be up against is Jack Queen. Yeah, well, we know that. But Jack Queen is not the most unfeasible thing. I mean, you did the right thing, and you win a nice big pot, and that sets you up. There you go.
Yeah, I thought, should I slow play, try and get him to bet at me? But because there's a straight thing out there, should I bet? Because if there was two hearts, or if there was two spades, without a doubt, I never give anyone a free card when there's two suited cards. I'll always bet. But I thought, because it wasn't, I thought it was only the straight. I thought, no, check And I don't know, maybe that was the wrong thing to do.
Fair dues. I guess the only part of what you did that I might be a little bit not sure about is once the flop had come down, that you checked to him, because even though it's a great hand, we were watching a hand earlier on where that's a great flop for you because you hit 2 pair. The only problem is if anyone's holding a jack or a queen, they're now 1 card off amongst the straight. So you kind of, I would suggest when that flop comes down, it is brilliant for you, and you've still got even stronger possibilities because you might even turn that 2 pair into a full house. But I think you need at that point to make a bet just to find out if this guy has got any part of it.
I know.
Because if you check to him, when he bets, you don't know if he's betting because he's got a part of it or whether he's betting out of position.
Okay.
So I would suggest even the smallest bet there, if he's not got anything, it just gives him an excuse to get out. Sometimes people are looking for excuses. He's got 9-7. He really doesn't want to be part of this. If you make a bet to him, you make it easy for him. If you checked him, he's thinking, oh, maybe I can push Michelle off this hand, etc., etc. Because even though it's a lovely hand, I don't want to sound like a scaremonger, but with 2 more cards to come, and the fact that you're up against an opponent who came with you on some raises before the flop, you might put him on ace, queen, or jacks, or do you know what I mean? So that is a scary...
See your point.
Yeah, as it goes, bingo, he's got nothing and you're a winner, but I just think you've got to be careful. I think a lot of people get blinded by that. It's ace-10, and the flop brings down ace-10, brilliant. But anyone with king-queen or queen-jack, they've got big possibilities.
I must admit, I do it with all the time without even thinking with the flush, but with the two to flush on the flop, but with straights not so much. It's weird, isn't it?
It is, but it takes a long while. I think that's the thing is, for anyone that's starting off, what do you focus on? Your hand. I got ace-king, I do all these moves with it. I've made ace-king, hurrah! Yeah, but what might you be up against? You don't want to, talk yourself out of playing, you don't want to, scare yourself, but you need to be aware of what could be out there. Because if somebody starts betting back at you, you need to know what you might want to put them on hands-wise.
It's really, do you know what, it's really good playing on the TV tables there and watching it. It's so wonderful when you're not sure what someone's got and you make a move, or you don't make a move, or someone makes a move against you and you get to see it back. It is brilliant. Like there's a hand here, that one we were talking about earlier, where he pushed me off. I can't wait to see what he had.
Well, I want to see what you're up against, because you did have a few ace-10s, and you had a few suited ace-10s where somebody bet to you before the flop and you got out of it. And I'll be really curious to see if you're up against hands that were better than you.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about it when it comes, because I'll tell you my thinking when we're there.
Well, absolutely, and I know you have your standard motto with the ace-10s, and I appreciate that.
Not only that, it's that, especially in these competitions, when you start making those calls and things with these huge raises, it's starting to be a huge percentage of your stack, and I start thinking, like, this is going to really put me in bad stead if I then go on to win this. Do I want to risk all that on this particular hand when I've been raised into, and things like that.
Absolutely.
Always go through my head. And I'm a bit better than I used to be. I started off being super tight, which worked for me to start with actually, but now I am loosening up a lot more.
Well, you do have, you're the celeb on the table, and all of the big celeb players, all of the big, the past champions, they always say, the trouble is, people will play more loosely against you, because if you beat them, they walk around saying, yeah, Michelle took me out, chicka-cha. And if they take you out, they walk around saying, I'm the one that took out Michelle, chicka-cha. Because all of the World Series guys, they say that I can't bluff anymore. Because if I make a move, somebody will call me, because if I knock them out, they walk away saying, I was knocked out by the world champion.
Yeah.
And if they knock you out, they go, I knocked out the world champion. So these guys are limited. So I think you also have a bit of that, which is, you're probably going to find action in most of the hands you play, because people want to be discussed by us and your sandwiches. Sandwiches have gone up.
You say about my sandwiches one more time.
And what? And what?
I am going to...
Yeah?
I'm going to shave your beard off.
Oh no! It does grow back, by the way. It's not like painted on.
Does it?
Mm-hmm. Had it tidied up today, just in case, any zooms, any extreme close-ups on camera 3. Ace-10 again. Suited, but you got
yeah, look at this. I thought, because again, like I said, I'd rather raise with it.
5 times the big blinds. Surprised by the call by King-Jack suited. Ace-King, is he going to come back over the top here, Duffy Duff?
This is the one. Remember you said, this is what we were just talking about, and you said, because it swaps the suits around. I had clubs, actually, in the thing.
Oh, okay. I was surprised, because okay, I remembered you having clubs. Oh, okay. Well,
because remember you raised it. I mean, I said that
I'll
was
be
why
honest,
I did
the
it.
thing that makes a difference for me, which I didn't remember when I was watching your screen, is I didn't realise you'd also had one caller.
Ah.
That for me.
But look what comes up.
Yeah. But do you know what? The number of times that happened compared to the number of times that won't happen. The number of times you throw things away and you go, oh, I would have had a. Yeah. Most of the time, and the thing is, this still isn't safe. If a queen comes down, you know, there's a straight. I mean, actually, you would have had a monster full house. What can I say?
Oh, so I weren't happy. Do you know what? Though I think I made the right. I made the right decision pre-flop, being able to see.
I think the thing that actually
Ace King.
The fact that you made it 5 times the big blind is. Well, not remembering, but for me, that move you make before the flop is you're establishing where you are.
Can I just say one thing, though?
Please do so.
I didn't actually mean to make it. My bet is 4 times because I already had 20 in.
Right, okay.
I got confused with the slider.
Okay, okay.
I don't know whether you were about to say it was a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, no, I would say that it's probably it's a bit much, because the thing is...
Oh,
the thing that is impressive there is that you got a decent hand ace-10 that's suited, and you do make a raise. Somebody calls it, so again, remembering our game is to try and put them on a hand. So they're probably going to be on a big pair or a big, you know, ace-queen, ace-king, or what I don't even remember what they had now. Maybe ace-king.
King-jack, yeah.
King-jack, okay. Suited king-jack, that's right. So he fancies his chances. The fact that you get another person raises, that's lots of warning bells. Like you say, you could easily be dominated. Your ace could be dead against a better ace. You could be up against a race, which you don't want to be into for too many. The only thing that makes it a little bit harder is that you do make the laydown, but because you made such a big move, it's a lot more chips. If you'd made that 80 or 60,
it would be different. But like I say,
you're still pushing people to kind of like get involved with a hand or not. No, it's fair dues. You know, at least you got away from it.
It's confusing. Do you know what? I will say this actually. It's going to
Big
make me.
full.
I know, big full
It's a
house.
bit.
Okay, we're just going to forget about that. Can I say though?
No.
And because I keep doing this with the slider, I do it all the time. When I'm on the blinds, I seem to get really. This is going to make somebody thick, but I seem to get really confused with the raise. I need to be raising. I usually raise it 80, so I put 80 in, but of course that's included with the 20 already on, so that's why it's 100, isn't it?
Well, that's different
so
between
I should
sites.
raise it 60, shouldn't I?
Absolutely, and do you know what the thing is? It's actually the problem with the sites, because sites do it in a different way. Some sites,
I reckon that's what it is,
you're entering the amount that will be your total, whereas some, as you say,
that's
it's the addition.
Is.
And
so
I've had the
really
same.
Confused.
The truth is, just live and learn. And also, if you don't, I hate slider bars. I much prefer where you can actually just type in the amount. Slider bars there. Especially if you've got a big stack, because the increments, the slider, it can be quite a huge, you know, between little movements on the slider, it can be quite a lot of chips.
No, we lost Kev Steele. Poor Kev.
Kevy was first out. Nice pair of queens you get ready. Oh, you had the button clicked already, didn't you, ace-4?
Yeah, I had the fold on.
F
button on. So cheeky tonight.
I know. I don't know what it is. I think it's that smug, sandwich-filled look on your face just lures me into wishing to abuse you. Well, that's this. This is a bit the show where I get to abuse you, really, isn't it? This is the whole raison d'etre.
Why would you want to abuse me?
Anybody wants to answer that? Text 84222. You know the email. Why would you want to abuse Michelle?
Because I'm nice. I'm not mean.
Well, that might be one of the answers.
Yeah. I'm not mean to anybody.
Yes, you are. You've slapped me. You've written rude words on my arm. I've
never written a rude word on your arm. No, ever.
That's true. I did.
Because I'm actually 27. I'm not yet.
Aren't you? Are you nearly
26? Is what I meant to say.
Baby. When's your birthday?
35.
We've told everyone where you live. When's your birthday? Let's get
24th of May.
All right, everyone. 24th of May.
You can send in presents. That's fine.
I'd stick to virtual e-card, email, birthday things if I were you.
Money and envelopes is fine.
Money. Checks. Postal orders.
Clothes vouchers.
I've still got book tokens from my 21st birthday. That was many, many years ago. I keep carrying them around in my wallet. One day I'll buy a book with them.
Probably out of date.
Exactly. Tokens don't work for me.
Right, so I've got 7-4. So you know what I'm thinking?
I think you've already clicked the fold button.
Yeah.
Ace Queen. Duffy's going to make a move here. Good on you. 160. Can't imagine they're going to get a call from anybody here, actually. The sixes might fancy. Sixes, I don't like to call with this. Please don't call this, Pidge.
What do you like with it then? Fold or
I'm going to either
raise?
fold that or I'm going to make a big raise. And the truth is, I'm just going to fold it because I'm going to be also position-wise your first to act. So here you are. Welcome to the situation you've asked for. Your first to act, you haven't hit a single piece of that. Now what are you going to do? If you make a big enough move, maybe you push Duff off. But that's because we know what Duff's got. Duff hasn't hit the flop either, and the diamonds are scary.
So he's now asking the question,
he's got
have
the answer.
you got it?
And he still calls. He can't be winning, surely he is, but you can't know that when you're in that position. You make a bet, somebody raises you, all right, I'll call again. I'm going to make another bet. If you're lucky, Duff gets out, well, there you go. But the truth is, that's danger. That's danger, Will Robinson. Because once you call...
Will Robinson?
You're too young, 26-year-old. When you call with a small pair like that, in the face of a raise, you're first to act for every subsequent round, unless you've got the guts, and that was really about winning with guts, because that was about firing bullets. It's like firing the bullet on a bluff, getting a re-raise and calling it, firing another bullet, getting a call, firing, you know, that was really won by a gutsy play. But the truth is, if Duff had hit either the queen or the ace, you are going to get called there and you're going to lose a load of your chips. So I just think it's a risky bit of play at this point in the game. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you think that's the way you always play those pairs. But for me, things like sixes, you've got a 96% chance of seeing an overcard on the flop. I either want to get in cheap as chips and cross my fingers and maybe I make my set and I do something with it, or I sense weakness and I make a big move with it and just push people off and win the pot there. But I don't want to be calling raises because I'm out of position and I think I'm up against the hand, and he got lucky there in my book.
Well, there you go, Pigeon.
Sorry about that, mate.
Been told by Matt the Beard Broughton.
The beard.
The beard.
Might shave it off, and then what's going to happen?
It will grow back.
Shall I shave it off?
That's
That's our sub theme tonight.
Well, he's all in with sixes. It's fair enough, isn't it?
Fair dues. He's only got 3-10 left. It's not a big deal for Wizard to call. Actually, that's a lie. It's about half his stack, but he's got a nice hand. Ace King. If the heart comes down, he's got the much better flush, which he does.
Nuts flush.
Nutty nut nuts.
Shame it wasn't the queen of hearts,
Ace is
it was
high.
the seven of hearts.
Is out of there. But look at you. You're still there. Still fighting strong. Jack 9.
Which I'm going to
I am-
hold if there's a
you're
raise.
gonna limp
But I
where you
want
win.
it, look, yay.
No one wanted to play.
How brilliantly played by myself.
That's the best way
That's
to
how
play
you
Jack
play
9.
poker.
Check or fold. Everyone fold, you pick it up. Suited King Queen. I hate King Queen. 29% to make a pair. It's
the
not good
ruler
for
in an unraised pot.
me. Nice. Who taught you that?
James.
James. Good old James. James.
King Queen.
James hasn't got it. We got Mark
He is,
Prince
he's
Charles
007.
Bannion. Oh, he's 007. Yeah. But I think that's one that it's like, hi, I'm Matt, really, really cool Broughton. Like, it's one of those, you've made that up, no one has ever called you that. Like, so what's your nickname? My name's Wicked Snake. No, you've just decided you want to be called Wicked Snake. Your real name's Wayne. Not that there's any problem with anyone being called Wayne.
It's like Nick, the hair.
Nick, but that's perfect. Because nicknames are only worth it when you know that the person that it belongs to wouldn't pick that.
For
If there's like, my name's James Luke Skywalker Browning, and you think that's cool. To be Nick the Hair, TV's Nick the Hair author.
Well, it's like night nurse as well. Whenever I play, everyone thinks I'm a nurse.
Well, that's not a bad thing.
Oh,
I quite often dress up as women on the weekend.
Yeah,
It
I
never
know
hurts
that's
me.
actually true, is the
It
one
is.
thing. And you
Yeah.
actually do look quite pretty as a woman.
But we were talking earlier on about an article written about, girls and all the womanly, wily charms they have to bring to the table. You being a girl called Night Nurse, all sorts of men will
I
go.
did try and talk Dr. Tom into dressing up with me on Halloween as a doctor and a night and a nurse, but he wouldn't have any of it.
He doesn't wear slacks during the week.
Look, I've got a pair of sevens. Remember when I had a go at you? Because you made me check that because I was sat out by mistake. Because that was when we were doing the sandwich thing.
Oh, well, let's see.
Remember I had a go at you?
Yeah,
because
you
I
did
would have
have a go.
raised them and I probably would have taken their blinds.
I think that's when you broke my wrist. That's when you pinched and twisted and hurt me.
Well, I probably would, and especially now that I can see their cards, I probably would have got away with it. Well, the Ace team may have thought I was
I
trying
think
to
you'll
steal
look
them.
back and thank me for that. Queen 3. King 5 suited for Aunt Sally. In the big blind, Duff might make a move here. Oh, look, it's another ace-10 suited.
Again.
See, I like to make a move. Oh, look, once again.
No, I'm under the gun. I don't even really want to be playing.
Well, why did you said to me, you started off saying, there's only two ways I like to play. I like to ace-10, I like to be in control of it. Call, we've seen you do once, and now we've seen you call.
Not under the gun, though.
Having these sayings is really nice, but it doesn't make any difference if you don't have to be mad to work here, but it helps. It's no use having these
All right,
things.
no, it's bad play. You should have raised, and I usually would have. I don't know why I didn't. It's a TV pressure thing.
A TV pressure thing. It's a TV pressure thing.
I should have. I thought about re-raising there and didn't, and I should have looking at it. Damn it.
So that's 520. You've contributed all these chips to the pot just to fold.
No, well, I just.
But see, the thing is, your plan is right.
I only contributed 80.
Your plan is right, though. You only want to play it when you're in the driving seat. It's just a shame you were compelled to hit the check button, the call button, rather than the do something with this hand button.
Well, I wouldn't at home, though, and that's the main thing.
Are you going to re-raise this man? Are you going to re-raise him, or are you going to call him?
Re-raise.
Good girl.
I thought, should I go all in? I kept moving my slider. All in or not all in? I couldn't work out what I wanted to do.
I don't know. Do you know what the thing is? At this stage, you might get a call, and you're going into it at the best.
I ended up just making it a big raise.
That is a big raise.
I don't know why, because I may as well just be all in.
But the blinds are 40-80. It leaves you with 300. It's not like you couldn't come back from that.
And then look, I get a jack. This is wonderful. I'm thinking.
And then you're under the gun.
Now, like I said, two diamonds. I'm always going to bet. I'm never going to trap when there's anything.
No, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. That's the right way to do it. And you've got to be aware of that. You know, the rainbow flop, fine. You might slow play it and jiggy. But the truth is, with jacks, and the fact there's now 2 hearts and two diamonds.
Yay!
Bang. Good on you.
And in the chat box, whoa,
Or are you bwahahaing at this point, throwing your head back with wild abandonment?
So look. Oh,
look
I'm
at
not
you.
quite chip leader
You
yet,
are
I'm
nearly.
second.
You're penultimate chip leader.
Yep.
You're the second best.
Yep.
You smug cow.
Can't call me a cow on live TV.
Why?
It's not allowed. Nick did it and got a lot of abuse in the forum.
Excellent. Let's have a bit of that then. Let's get that forum rolling. Chip nurse, you got yourself a little bit of that with the bottom pair and the.
Yeah, I thought about. Do you know what? I really thought about making a bet.
I would have fancied a bet there because
didn't.
it's like you bet. The difference is when you bet on the turn, you're probably representing a draw, be it the hearts or be it the straight. And if he comes back at you, you kind of know where you are. Just to check and check, you're totally relying on actually having the better hand, which you did, but that's only one way of winning.
Look at my ace-10 again.
Ace-10 suited. What is it with you kids? Don't forget, everybody, Michelle only plays it when she's in the driving seat. She doesn't like to call. What are you going to do with your chip stack, your chip lead, as it is currently? Tick-tock, 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 tick-tock,
I'm thinking.
tick-tock.
What
Busy
do I
typing
do?
rude words.
I folded. What to tell you? And look, you had 2-3 suited.
Well, look, here's somebody else with ace-10, and it's offsuit. Let's see how he wants to play it. Let's see how wizard he folds it. Well, you're right, no one likes ace-10, even suited.
I've had some bad. I've had some lots of times that I've called raises of ace-10. I'm just dominated by ace-jack, ace-queen, ace-king.
Queen 4 folded by chip nurse there.
Yes, I think I did the right thing.
No argument with you there. Kings for Bennett, who was talking to me at the same time as playing you. Ace-2 for Duffy.
He said it's his first time on the TV, Mr. Bennett.
Oh, people will be stopping him in the street now, I'd imagine, asking for his autograph.
6-2. Not going to play it, I don't think, at this
Absolutely.
particular point. Do you know what, with bluffing, they say women don't bluff. We do, but I tend to bluff when I have outs, some kind of something.
Do you know what, the outright bluff, it's not necessary. Semi-bluffs, fair dues, but outright bluffs, unless you've really got great... I mean, in live games, if you really pick up a tell on someone, but in these sort of games, the problem is also so many people are likely to call you, and You can't know enough about your opponents. I just very rarely just outright bluff. It's got to be a positional move, but you want some outs. Just people going crazy with nothing. Well, the 7 king versus the 7s with jacks is good enough. You moved up another position.
Yes, I'm first.
And you're chippy leader.
I'm not only chip nurse, I'm also chip leader.
You are awesome. You are a beautiful butterfly.
Now I'm not again. But I was for a moment, so that's good.
Yeah.
I was for one hand.
Oh, my God, what is it with you?
Again.
Ace 10.
See, they just kept flowing, didn't they? Why couldn't the ace king that was flowing all the time?
And Jack, is he going to... I bet he's going to try and limp in here, isn't he?
Yeah,
See if you're going to let him have a cheapo floppo. There's the limp. What are you going to do?
Well,
you like to be in the
usually I would
driving seat.
raise, but I didn't. I checked. I don't know why. I think I was chatting again. That's really bad.
See, now you mustn't chat. That's a, you know... I suppose it's the pressure of being famous.
It is pressure on TV. You do funny things, you make weird decisions.
I like that sandwich.
You know what? I'm not going to rise to it.
You're so mature. Ow. Oh. Okay, that noise was me being stabbed.
So it's a
with
bad
a pen.
play anyway. I should have made a bet by now.
Well, yeah, let's be honest. To get to the river with a board like that holding ace 10, I would expect at least a feeler bet.
And he did it, and I put it down.
Exactly,
so
and that's the whole point.
There.
You get those situations where it's like both players obviously started with something that they fancied having a look at. The flops are kind of a mess, and nobody really makes anything. It's generally the case that he who bets wins. And you've been playing about, you know, about the right sort of...
22% of hands played.
22, yeah.
That's all I'm playing. Oh no, yeah, that's
no, that's
right.
okay. That's about right. Well, no one here is being ludicrously
so I thought
loose.
it was plays hands folded, which is what usually is on the chart. I was about to say.
No, look, if you look at the top, it actually is written down to help us. Percentage hands played. If you're in doubt, just look at the top of the screen. Sorry, I'm giving you a really hard time here.
That's fine. You know
I don't mean to.
Go ahead. If it makes you feel more manly, that's fine.
Do you know what? It does make me feel like a man to abuse you. Thanks for pointing that out. I'll have a word with my therapist.
Yeah, good.
Oh, well, Duff will be a bit disappointed to only take back the big blind and the small blind, but there you go. Pair of jacks could have been easily cracked, so what can you say? 81.60 on the blinds now. They're starting to do a bit more damage. Bennett just starting to sort of walk away with the lead now. Aunt Sally, pair of kings. Oh, that was so quick, I didn't even see what you had there. What did you have?
I think it was like a 7-2 or something rubbish.
Aunt Sally's surprised that she's limped in with this. Luckily might find Bennett making a move with Jack Queen off. Yep, now all in from Aunt Sally. Come on, bang, all in. No tickling. Yeah, good. Bennett should really run away from this. But he has a lot of chips. He knows it's not going to get much more expensive because Aunt Sally has run out of chips. And has the extra added equity of, as well as taking those chips, plonking somebody out of the game and being down to 4. Doesn't make any difference. And now Bennett is drawing dead.
Yeah, and look, he's chip leader.
Looky, looky. Quickly, take a picture, everybody.
I'm a joint chip leader. I thought he had 50. Is that 50 or is it 60?
Oh, it doesn't matter now. Thanks to the blinds, you're ruined. But you got the best of it here. Pair of 7s. You had pair of 7s before, which apparently because of my fault, and I've got the mark on my wrist to prove it was my fault that you folded.
It was. I think they fold to me anyway.
Bennett might just chuck this away, or is he going to try and limp
No, I think
in?
he folds. If he had limped, I would have re-raised.
Will you sell these things?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, sometimes you tell us, well, I definitely would have re-raised him, and then you don't. Or, yeah, well, I like to be in the driving seat.
That happened once with the ace-10, once, because I was under the gun and I wasn't feeling it. And yes, I admitted that that was a mistake, didn't I? So there you go.
You know, the truth is, Michelle, I don't really care. I'm just giving you a hard time because it's fun. You know, you do what you want.
I know this, so I don't know why I'm rising to it.
I know why you rise to it either, but, you know.
8-9 on the button. I don't like slow connectors. I generally just don't play. I mean, I don't have to hit his raise, but...
No, I'm in agreement with it. Even though you're on the button, which is the best place to be, in the face of a raise of that magnitude...
Most of the time, I'm just not going to have any of that flop at all.
I don't even like it if it was cheap to get into, to be honest. Not at this stage. Blinds are big enough that you've got Wizard down on 670. You've got
I'm chip
so many
leader.
chips. Yeah, you can afford to let these guys get nibbled away and start panicking.
I'm chip leader.
You've got to make a move when you've got a good hand. You don't want to just sit back forever, but 8-9 off. Who cares? Let's have a look at something. Here's the... Oh, look.
Look, who's at
Everyone,
the top?
press record now.
Who is at the top? Let's get that R button on. Come on. Doesn't really mean anything though if I don't win, does it?
It don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing, frankly. But there you are. There's a moment in time where you were the best person on the planet as far as that screen and those 5 people were concerned.
Yep.
7, 8, 9, 10, Jack. Well, jigger me jigger nuts if he hasn't got himself in straight. And absolutely nobody to pay him off.
Yep.
But he is now the chip leader again, I'm afraid. See, that's why they got that screen up there, because they knew that seconds away was the demise of your chip leaderness. That was good of them, I thought.
That's probably right, isn't it? It did last, if for only a moment.
The good news is, you know, you've still got plenty chips, and there's Wizard on 670,
now
Sally
the
on
blinds have
880.
just gone up, so everything's starting to get a
Exactly.
little bit worrying.
You know, this might be a hand Wizard wants to make a move with. Aunt Sally may well feel compelled to call this. It's a pocket pair. Probably going to be a race. Probably knows that there are bigger hands out there, but it's going to take... Well, now he's also got the straight draw, 10, a king or a queen. Doesn't occur. And Aunt Sally takes out Wizard, and we are down to the bubble. The next person to go out...
Do you know what I typed in the thing?
Loser.
I put, no, not the bubble.
Well, the bubble's the place that champions are born.
It's not, is it?
No, not at all. Aunt Sally getting a bit active with her new chips. What she's just won.
Look, see, now all of a sudden I'm not looking very so good.
You're not looking so very so good, no. No, not at all. With your king 3 suited.
I looked away for like a moment, and one minute I was chip leader, and I looked back and I'm like, hang on a minute.
That's all right. You know, you're not the worst at the table.
I really wanted Duff Mother to go out here so badly. It was
Yeah,
unbelievable.
it's amazing the amount of support you rally for somebody when you're thinking, please go out.
I was not happy.
Jacks versus aces, and all of a sudden, if I'm not mistaken, you're actually the short stack.
Well, I'm not
8-9, which we've discussed. We don't like 8-9. Quite rarely gets out, but the next hand is going to be an obligatory big blind. The 320 are coming your way. Suited connectors for Bennett, who has been one of probably the more active players on the table. Good bit of time in there. I'd be pleased to see that Duff had a ace jack.
Yeah, I get queen 3.
Yeah, and up
about?
against Aunt Sally, who's unlikely to sit back on chips at this stage. Good move by Sally. Gives you no option but to fold, I hope. Good. Yep.
And then small blind comes.
160. Ka-chink.
710.
710, that's
I'm thinking,
all.
what? Now I'm really starting to worry about my chips.
Do you make a move here to protect your small blind?
No.
No. Just give it up.
I just gave it up.
Just hoping the next hand is slightly bigger.
Thing is, that's what I think now. I think if I can get a decent hand...
Well, that makes it easier. The fact that Bennett makes a move there.
The thing is, I'm thinking, even if he hadn't have made a move, at that point I'm thinking I can make a move now, maybe get a call and risk it, or I've got the one more chance to the next blind to try and double up, and then I could still win.
Well, a lot of people would go all in here. A lot of people just, as soon as they get an ace, as soon as they start panicking, as soon as they get an ace, they'll go all in. What do you do here?
That's exactly what I did, because I'm thinking one more hand and I'm on the big blind, and I've got an ace at the moment, and they're on the blinds. They might not have anything. Unfortunately, had eights.
Your 8 is dead.
It was jinxed from the time I wrote
You've
in the
got
box.
a 6.
Oh no,
6
the
gives you
bubble.
the straight split pot. No. So that's...
It was jinxed from the time I wrote in the thing. I bet stupid bubble. I better go out and bubble, and I did.
That's our Michelle. So there you go. It's a shame that you're up against... The 8 is dead to you. You're only looking for an ace. You could have had a split pot there had the 6 come down. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Can't
8.
win anything at the moment.
Don't be like that, Michelle.
No, I don't actually think I've won anything in about 4 weeks. I've lost half of my stack in my account. I'm not happy.
Well, you got to play through the pain, baby.
I was doing really well as well. I had such a good streak before then. The thing is, though, the really thing is, you start thinking, I must be playing badly. I must be doing something wrong. And I'm trying to look at my play thinking, am I making too many mistakes? Am I doing too many things wrong? So I'm trying to think about that while I'm playing, and you really start questioning your ability to be able to do anything, and then you feel like you want to give up.
Well, that's not entirely the attitude we're trying to promote here on Pokemon.
No, but it's good that I say these things. There's going to be so many people out there feel the same as me at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, even people like Phil Helmuth have gone through better
Oh
times.
God, yeah. Some of these guys. That's what I'm saying. Especially if you're a tournament player predominantly, then you'll go through a year. You know, some of these guys have a year, 18 months of just like a bad run. But it's a bit like, you know, if you win the World Series, well, there's 7.5 million. Feel free to have now 3 years of bad luck, because if that's the way you're playing, if that's what you're playing is tournaments.
Mm-hmm. So me, little chip nurse.
Exactly, but you think about it. If you're saying, oh, I'm down to half my bankroll, how many tournaments do you need to come first in to get that back up?
We did just have an email from someone saying, why are you chip nurse? And it's because I am actually night nurse. And which was picked when I was on with Dr. Tom.
Indeed.
The viewers picked it as night nurse,
Yeah.
but we couldn't get it for this site, so I'm chip nurse.
There you go. And Aunt Sally there knocks out Bennett, who's been very active, but Bennett gets some money, unlike Michelle, who just gets something to move. Michelle. Duffy.
I'm a hat.
King. Ooh. Well, Aunt Sally had that from the flop, and God bless her ear if it didn't come along and ruin everything from anybody.
I can't believe I was bubble. So unfair. At one point, Matt, did you know that I was actually the chip leader?
Do you know what? I'd heard that. I think I remember seeing a leaderboard, and you were the top.
I was.
Remarkable.
All of one hand, I was winning.
Well, swings and roundabouts here. Aunt Sally is back. They're nearly equal. Only 200 between them before the blinds slap them. 640. Everyone's going a bit bonkers here. The blinds are only 326.40. They've both got a fair bit of play here. But everyone's starting to go, all in every hand, all in every hand.
I really wanted to make the money.
Are you still over there lamenting? If only I could win some money.
If only. Well.
Duffy Duffers, 2 live cars. Fancies it. It gets better.
I always tend to be when I'm on with Nick, so I need Nick to come back.
Oh, so it's my fault now, is it? Oh, do you know what? I'm so sorry. I didn't see that one coming. So if I wasn't distracting you...
Ooh. You said, actually, might I add, that if I didn't get in the money, you'd shave your beard off.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did, at the beginning of the tournament, so you're going to have to do that now.
No, I didn't.
You did in
that
the
was
break.
Somebody else. Somebody else has promised you that I'd shave my beard off without my knowledge of it.
Do not go back. You can't go back on your word.
I didn't say this. Oh, Duffy. The 2s. Once again, these boys are, it's going backwards and forwards.
It is, isn't it?
No one seems to be able to, like, take a significant lead. Still
this happens a lot in heads up, though, doesn't it? Just going back and forth and back and forth.
Especially when no one's getting a hand, because they're really just exchanging blinds. They try and limp in, somebody makes a move, they give it up. Aunt Sally's going to make a move here. Duffy will go, oh, have I had enough of this game? The next level on the blinds is going to stop this because they just won't have enough chips, because there weren't that many chips in the tournament to start with. There you go, 640, 1280. It's just a huge chunk of your chips before you even get anywhere. Queen
Aunt Sally, you just can't call, can you, with 3-5?
3-5's hideous, but that's like, you know, best part of 30 of your stack. It's going to come down to
2-8 is, it's just as bad for poor old Aunt Sally, but she's in.
Well, trying to just make a move on the merit of making a move. The jack for Duff.
Ooh.
It's drawing dead time for Aunt Sally. It gets the 2 at the end, but it's not going to be good enough. Queens and 2s for Aunt Sally, but queens and jacks for Duff, who's our first prize winner. Well done there, Duff. That was a battle. That went on. Well done, Duff.
Well, would you look at that?
Good stuff. Well, unlucky. You did okay. You
Bubble
got...
again.
Hey, I came 7th in mine. You did better than me. I have no one to talk about. One day I will return and do much better than 7th. Possibly even get some money.
Yeah, well, I don't know who's winning. I think it's Casper still ahead.
Yeah, but that's unfair because Casper's played about 10 games, so of course he's doing better. Variance.
Very well, though,
all variance.
Right. Oh, should we do
Are you composed now? You're recovered. Just let it go. Let it go.
So what? Actually, though, before we do the emails, what did you think of my play overall?
I think it was okay. I think the truth is you just maybe... Well, everything that we always say, I don't think you asked that many questions.
Watch it.
No. I mean, you came fourth. You outlived many people.
You're right.
A couple of points, you were always, to be honest, right until the very end when you kind of started chucking the chips in, you were always in the top few. You know, you were never like short stacked and going crazy. I think you just... There were a couple of hands where we saw it check down to the river, and then somebody would bet and you'd fold.
I don't know what's going on.
And I just think the thing is the turn. By the time you get to the turn, just take a deep breath and go, what's been going on up until now? We're involved in the pot, so we both probably have similar hands. We've got hands packed with potential that haven't actually turned into something. Just a little bet, not a massive commitment of chips, but at those and also you were doing it at stages when the blinds were still actually relatively cheap. So you had maybe 1,500. A little bet of 40, 60, just to ask the question. They probably would have done what you did, which is just folded.
I've got a couple of little black marks then.
No, you did okay. What can I say? It's hard to. It's really hard to say. And we saw actually that a lot of the time when you were under pressure, you were actually up against hands that beat you.
Yeah.
So you know, I just think you can't let people.
I could get a bit more jiggy.
A little bit too much calling and a little too much checking. Maybe just a little bit more kind of like ask the question. Ask the question.
Good. Right, we've got an email from John. He says, hi all, I've been considering a type of poker analyzer calculator for a while now, but can't decide on which one to get. I would be grateful for any suggestions you may have. James Browning, he'd be good.
There are a number of these things out there. To be honest, a lot of them are freebies. You know, you can download them and you get a limited amount of use. Your best bet is just to do a Google search on these things and try them out. The other thing that might also direct you is depending on which software you like to play poker on. Some of them have compatibility issues. I think some of them are very good, and if people don't know what we're talking about, there are like lots of little utilities that link onto the game you're playing. And as you play, it will show you the odds of the hands you might complete to it. It will show you what odds your opposition might make. Don't, I would say, go for any of the ones that sort of specifically tell you to fold here, call here, raise here, because you need to develop your own sort of rhythm when you're playing. But they are good. A lot of people get a bit sort of drawn away with this whole, oh, I don't know all the odds, I don't know what the pot odds are, I don't know. That's where these little applications can help you, but the truth is you've got, you know, Poker Indicator and Texas Calculator, and there's lots of these things that you can download and try out for free. And that's probably a great learning tool. I wouldn't suggest you use them when you actually start playing properly, but if you're a newbie and you want to kind of get a bit more in touch with the odds and how this works, they're a good way to go. But try them out. Most of them are freebie for a certain amount of use.
Thank you, Matt. We've got an email here from James. Good morning to you, James. He says, hi guys, I play regular home games with friends. However, the friends I play with are poor players. They know you're saying that. They never bet or raise, they never re-raise, and they always like to see the flop with whatever hand they have, even 7-2 offsuit. An example of how one of these players play is as follows. In a freeze-out tournament, I had queens, I raised to 3 times the big blind, $450. One player calls, flop comes Jack 8-3, all of hearts. So I had an overpair and a flush draw. I made a pot-sized bet, my opponent calls, turn comes 4 of clubs. I make another pot-sized bet, opponent calls, I suspect he is drawing at this point. Turn comes king of diamonds, I make a bet of 4 times the big blind, my opponent goes all in. He said he had ace-king of hearts. However, as he didn't show his hand, which he normally does if he has a monster, I feel he just had king rag and fished to the river in order to hit it. After this, I folded my queens, whatever he had. The fact of the matter is, throughout the hand, I never knew where I stood. The players who I play with always play in this fashion and more often than not beat me. My question is, how do you get an advantage over these players and beat them? It's a wonderful question, actually, because so many people are playing against people that don't know how to play and are forever calling and checking. You never know where you are, and it is difficult to play them, isn't it? It is.
The truth is, you've got to set out what's your objective, because the truth is, in most of the home games, the social games you play, the objective is different than if you're playing in a hardcore live tournament or if you're playing on one of our online games. Is that in social home games, primarily it's about getting together and playing poker. And that means that lots of people want to see the flop, they want to taste it to the river, they want to bust your big hand. You know, it really depends what kind of serious game you're playing. If everyone is super, super serious, but it doesn't sound like they are, because they're probably continuing to play, a bit like we were talking earlier on about playing poker with your mums. It's like they just want to play, they like playing with the chips, they feel nice, don't they? How do you beat them? The truth is, you just have to stick to your game. If in this situation you really believe that you've got this guy beat with your queens, well then just keep pushing. If you think he's just calling because he's chasing a king, brilliant. These are the people you want to play against, because you know that when you've got the good hands, they're going to keep paying even if they know they're in a losing position and they're chasing cards. So the truth is, you've kind of got to have courage and, you know, confidence in your own game, that if these guys are the ones chasing and you're the guy playing the main hands, well then that's a perfect situation. But I think the truth is you need to probably have a more kind of realistic expectation of what kind of game you're going to have in that situation, especially if perhaps a can of beer is involved. It's not exactly going to be the World Series down there, is it? But I guess the truth is just at least have some fun with it. Don't get too wound up about it, unless that's the way your home games work, which is quite often the way with home games with boys.
With the lads. Okay, well, if you have any questions or comments you would like to ask us, then you can. The text number, I said us, but, you know, me and you.
If you've got any comments you want to
ask. Do text. The text number is 84222 or 84222.
Indeed. I know which one I like.
Or you can email poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. Okay, well, we're heading off to a break now. Matt and I will return, hopefully, for that final table of the multi-table tournament
yes,
as well.
Let's hope so.
So don't go anywhere, and we'll see you after the break. Good morning and welcome back to Poker Night Live, with myself, Michelle, aka Night Nurse, and Matt, aka the Beard Broughton.
Not happy with this new tag. And anyway, you're Chip Nurse, Night Nurse. You don't know who you are. Just our identity crisis.
Yeah. Have an email from Des. He says, "Evening, folks. I've heard the presenters talk about value bets. What does this mean?"
Okay, value bets. Very simply, a value bet is when you believe you're going to get called by somebody, but you think that you have the better hand. So quite often you see when we get to the river, you know, I don't know, I've got a pair of jacks and I think you've probably got a hand as well. You're not bluffing, I think maybe you've got something, but I think I got you beat. So you make a value bet, which is just trying to get a little bit of payoff to take that showdown, because also at that point there's probably money in the pot, the guys are getting pot odds. So very, very simply, you make a value bet because you want to get called because you think you have the better hand. That's it.
That's as easy as that.
That's as simple as that.
Well, excitement, Matt.
Really?
We've got the final table of our multi-table tournament.
Good stuff, we like that.
Excellent, let's go straight there, I think. It's those last 5 players. Now, bear in mind we started with 138 runners,
Oui.
207,000 chips in play. Blinds have gone up every 12 minutes and top 10 places are paid. So fifth walked away with $110. Will walk away with $110.
Not bad.
Not bad for the 10 you put in.
Look, we've just joined at a good time. Check that out. He had the queens, found Big Slick, who hit his king on the turn, but by the river. Wow. And here's another big boy. Look, Big Slick versus Pocket Kings versus 10 queens suited.
Wow.
No one is getting away from this one, I would imagine. Guyo's going to go all in here. And he's so happy.
Wow, this is huge.
Maybe now Queen 10 can't let it go. And only a club, would spoil it. Wow,
takes both of them out. So what happens here? Because 5th is $110 and 4th is $131.
The way it's worked out is whoever went into the hand, out of Executioner and Superlight, whoever went into the hand with the most chips
okay.
actually then gets the better position.
5th and 3rd.
Because you'll find that a lot in tournaments when you get down to there being 3 big chip leaders and a couple of guys limping.
Yeah.
That you will see people knock out too, and that's the way it is. Whoever had the most when they went into the fight comes out with the most. So
we're down to 3.
Superlight there actually came out as 5th with 110, and Executioner, because he had more chips, picks up $131. Nay too shabby. So now we see that Ran and Snaky, about the same in chips, are going to fight it out here for the next position. And there's a pretty big difference in chips, sorry, should I say payout. 3rd place is 172, 2nd place is 276. Not that it's guaranteed Guyo's going to be first. Anything can happen here, short-handed. 414. And we always say this, it takes a while to get there, but not a bad payoff, 414. Snaky's a woman.
Yep. Ooh, in.
Lady on the table.
She needs to keep pushing now, doesn't she? Try to double up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the thing is, once you're down on the short stack...
Oh, well, she's not actually. It looked like because she'd got lots of her chips in, sorry, excuse me.
You've got to, oh, well, the truth is, short-handed, you've got to make moves. It's a bit like, you know, the conversation we had about heads up and people not having as much experience. You've just got to be the aggressor. So a little rinky-dinky minimum bet there. Bottom pair, going to pick it up. Time for round chip to pick up the big blind. Still not a huge amount of pressure on the stacks.
So it'll be interesting to see the hands these guys are playing with, actually, because three players left. It's very similar to heads up. The value of your hands become more even though they're lower, don't they?
And obviously because there's only one position, the button is the only person getting away kind of scot-free, as it were. There's no investment, so what you'll tend to see is a lot of the time it's a battle of the blinds. Unless the guy on the button has a decent hand, why should I get involved here? Unless, of course, they're going to make a move to steal the blinds, because the blinds are busy protecting. They could have any random hand, and if the guy on the button decides to get a bit more aggressive, they've got £3 to pick up, maybe with just a move. But of course it's a dangerous move, because if you do run into hands, it can become very expensive.
So ace-5 good enough to push in with, or can they still play a bit here?
Well, I don't think they need to push in here, because you've got 40,000 in chips. The blinds are only 1,000, 2,000. So you've got 40,000. You've got more than 20 blinds there.
See, like that, a gullo calling with a jack-2 usually, I suppose, wouldn't do that.
Well, unless he's just trying to set the trap, because the hardest thing in shorthand is obviously getting people to pay off when you make a big hand here. So maybe he's trying to disguise the set, he's aware that he could be up against a king and he wants to get paid off. I can't imagine Ram Chip is going to call this. No.
Oh, God, he's got 3 2s.
Yeah. Oh, did you not realise that? Sorry. Yeah, that's what I was saying, is maybe he's trying to disguise that. Is on the flop, is trying to throw out a little disguise so you can then bring in the chips later. You have to watch these things.
You do have to take notice, don't you? There's 3 2s, two twos on the flop.
2 2s.
Well, Snake is all in. Well, it's round chip, sorry, that's all in.
What screen are you watching? I'm really not sure what game you're viewing. But
it's getting late.
Well, Snakey getting low.
She's now got some work to do, isn't she?
Is Snakey a friend of yours then?
No, but her and Mrs. Bandit, I'm in there with them. It's girlies.
Oh, really?
Girlies are us.
Ace is going to be good enough to make the raise. No real surprise there. Protects the small blind and takes a chunk out of Snakey, who I'm sure is going to go all in here.
Yep.
7-8 suited connectors. Guyo might actually have a prod at this and going to bump into a big hand, but Snakey, of course, is going to run out of chips. So this might present value to Guyo because he has live cards. It's not going to cost him too much. If he loses, it's not going to hurt him.
What do you mean by live cards?
7-8, a lot of people, we were talking about this earlier on, a lot of people wait till they get something like an ace or a king and they go all in. And if you've got ace 4...
6, 7, 8, 9. Look at that.
That's not the worst thing in the world to hit. Is if you went all in, if you wait until you have ace 3 and you go all in, you're either going to find people folding, or the sort of hands that are likely to call you are things like ace 7 or ace 8. So automatically one of your cards is dead.
Yeah.
And that's why there's actually more value at this sort of stage with making moves with things like 10 jack or 9-10, because if somebody does call you, even if you go into that race the underdog, at least both of your cards are live.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So there's this whole contention that says rather than just waiting to have a king fold, oh, it's a king, I'll go all in. If somebody does call you, they're probably going to have you beaten. So would you rather go into a race crossing your fingers with both cards live, or with only one of them still actually active?
Well, Snakey goes out third with $172.
Nay too shabby, and Guyo's got bottom pair and a draw, a straight flush draw in fact. A 9 of diamonds would give the highest card of the... I think the best hand we've seen tonight has been, we had 4 of a kind 4s earlier on.
Did we?
Yep, we had 4 4s. You remember I went for 4? 4 4s. We had 4
no,
4s.
Was I playing?
You were playing, actually, and I was just talking nonsense. So that actual bit of real information probably didn't cut through the cloud of guff that I was generally talking.
Heads up, multi-table tournament. Let's have a look at what these guys do, because there's loads of play here with the blinds only 1-2.
Absolutely, absolutely. No pressure on anybody here.
Unless we have 2 monster hands.
Yep, and that's quite often the way here. There'll be a little bit of aggression, people trying to build up a bit of momentum, but it will be somebody picks up a hand.
Well, there's quite a lot to play for, because second place is $276 and first place is $414. There's well over $100 to win.
Absolutely, unless we had a question earlier on saying, how often should I expect to win? There's that. The truth is, you always want to be in the top 3. When you're playing in any tournament. Well, obviously, especially when there's only 3 places played. But in the bigger tournaments, The top 3 is where the money actually gets significant enough to warrant the amount of time.
Wow, that's nice for a 4-8.
Yeah.
Not going to get paid though.
Yeah. Well, luckily, just limping around here.
Well, he's got a gutter shot now, Gullo.
Yeah. The 6 would have been scary. Ram just sort of trying to weasel, probably aware that it's going to be hard to make any real money out of Guyot there, so... Actually, I've just realised I'm saying Guyot as if it's some
Gullo.
Spanish. Yeah, I'm giving it the double Y as a bit of Guyot. Yeah, it's probably Gullo. Mind you, there was Bono U2, but because the U wasn't capitalised, I was going Bono, Bono 2, Bono 2, and it was only like I'd been commenting for about an hour, and it was only when he left I suddenly realised it was Bono U2. I was like, what an idiot. So here's Guyot. I always like to go for the difficult version.
Guyot. Cultured, don't you?
Exactly. Trying to make it look like I'm a European. Just an Essex boy, really. Oi, Gullo.
One of my friends is a Spallion.
A Spallion?
Yep.
And what exactly is that?
Half Spanish, half Italian.
Is that the official name for us?
I made it up.
Oh, good, okay. I'll just abandon that conversation as Ramchip picks up a flush draw with a jack on the 4. And now it's actually become a flush. And once again, the nightmare of the situation is Ram's got a great hand, and Gullo's got no part of that flop, and he's just betting to try and find out. That is a message to Gullo. Gullo, I can't believe he's got to the final table without learning to give it up, and he does. Perfect. And that's the difference between that play and the play we saw earlier on, where somebody was making a bet, being a bit cheeky, somebody comes back over the top of him. It's like warning lights, alarms, but we saw so many people go, well, I'll just call that. Why? If he's bluffing you, fine, but if he isn't, you've got to have a pretty good read on the guy to keep betting, keep calling with the... If you really believe he's just bluffing you.
Who have you got your money on? I'm going to take Gullo.
Okay, well, I'll have Ramchip then. Funny that, eh?
Were they saying that?
Well, heads up. See, that's the thing.
Change straight away.
And especially heads up where there's still so much play left, you know, in the blinds. And Ramchip's bringing himself back up here. King 8. And the boys have been a bit tentative. It's almost like they're a bit afraid to make too many big moves in case they scare off the opposition. Neither of them may hit the flop, so it's really going to be about who's got the guts to make bets. £4 into a 24 grand pot is really not big enough to serve any purpose. And that's why you've got to monitor, and it is so easy online, monitor what the pot is, because there you got 24 grand. Making a couple of grand bet, it's not going to really make a big difference. It's not scary. So another part of betting is you've got to decide what is the purpose of this bet. And like there, if that bet from Gullo was meant to push his opponent off, it's not really big enough. It's almost like he wants to make a bluff of it, but he's scared of putting too many chips there. So remember, when you're betting, what do you want? You want to get paid off, you want to plump up the pot, or you're trying to scare them off? Because if the pot's 11 grand, then making a bet of a grand, it's, you know, 2 grand, it's giving them good odds to call you. Pocket 9, not too bad. Ka-ching. And there he is, not Ram. My boy is nearly equal with your boy. That you were so keen to pick up while he had a big chip lead.
Well, we'll see. We'll see, won't we, who wins at the end. Do you want to wager?
You'll have to shave your beard off. Don't look at me like that. You're just mumbling to yourself now, aren't you? You don't even want to engage in some battle of wits. You're just mumbling like some old man going, oh, well, I get you. Well, look at that power. 5-9 offsuit, 7-10 offsuit. Neither of them hit any part of the flop. Who's going to be brave? 8 grand. That's a nice bet. I like that. And that does the job. That was certainly not a hand that wants to get called, and 8 grand's a big enough scary amount to do the job.
Yeah. There's ace
10. Well,
out in force tonight.
just trying to limp in here, probably trying to induce a raise, which will then get re-raised. There you go. These guys know what they're doing, and Ram gives it up. That's real textbook. Makes the little limp because he knows that Ram's unlikely to let that through. Gets the re-raise, makes a big move. Ram lets it go because he knows exactly what's going on here.
High cards pretty good heads up, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's what you're worrying about.
The truth is, pre-flop, whatever you got is worth a go, because, you know, random hands and random hands, most of the time it's always going to be the flip of a coin. And it really is about guts. Once the flop comes down, who's the gutsy players? And we saw somebody earlier on, I think, in the end of your game, where they really had not a very playable hand, pair of threes, but they had the guts to keep shooting at it, keep firing at it, keep firing at it, and push somebody off with a much stronger drawing hand that didn't complete to anything. And here we go for the first time. My boy is in the lead. But then again, we saw earlier on you were ship leader for ages in your game. What difference did that make?
Yeah, I was up there for quite a while.
The lofty heights of the leaderboard.
Got unlucky.
Yeah. 115,000 chips to 90,000. Still, no one's likely to run away with this. And see, this is when we were talking earlier about the televised tournaments and the sort of hands you see, is that all of these hands, these will be edited out. You know, this is the reality of how heads up is. Lots of tiny little movements of chips, 1,000 here, 1,000 there. And then the cameras start rolling when ace king goes up against a pair of nines or whatever it might be. But this is the reality of heads up, and that's why so many people
back and forth.
Yeah, and that's why so many people, because we know that one of the reasons that poker has become so popular is because of the amount of televised coverage there is. But it gives a great representation of what a full table is like, because with 10 players or 9 players or whatever, there's going to be action. Whereas when you get down to heads up, this is what it's about, and that's the thing, is that you don't get this shown, because this can go on for some while and it can be like a little bit back and forth, back and forth. So a lot of people aren't ready to be playing Jack-7 like it's a winning hand, because they've never seen it done. Ace-9, ace is good. He's going to find out if he's got a queen opposing him, and he finds out that he doesn't.
Not to set it up, obviously, but through the whole game, like you said, it's very important to be asking the questions, isn't it, and finding out where you are.
And the good thing about these guys, the thing to learn from these guys is how alert they are. We've seen somebody limps, somebody raises, somebody re-raises, somebody folds. You know, they are actually, not only are they asking the questions, it's a bit like anything. Don't ask a question if you're not actually prepared to listen to the answer. Because there's no point in asking the question. So here, that's what these guys are good to watch, is somebody has a little ask, have you got anything? The other guy makes a re-raise, the other guy said, have you really got anything? You know, there's lots of conversation going on in the betting, and the good thing is they're responding to it.
Wow.
That's
strange, isn't it? That's his whole tournament life on a pair of fives.
That's the first time he's done that. It's the first time he's gone in, but now they're really so close to equal. Still 1,000, 2,000 on the blinds. I can't believe that's going to be the way.
The thing is, with that move with the five, though, is surely the only hand that's going to call him is one that's beating him, probably.
Well, not necessarily, because if at that point you've got... Well, I guess the truth is, it's all the psychology. Imagine that you've got ace-king, and you're thinking, here we go, and suddenly your opponent goes in, totally all in. Is it you're thinking, well, what's he likely to do? If he has aces, is he really going to go all in with aces? Isn't he going to want to try and play it a bit more subtly? So quite often it's almost worth doing. It's a risky move, but it's worth doing just because it really does throw your opponent. And you might get called if he's got pocket tens, if he's got ace-queen. And that's the truth of it, is that most of these hands, we're used to seeing things like 10-king going up against ace-jack. But to be honest, you know, king-6 versus queen-5 is much the same maths. It's just not such a familiar sort of fight.
So Gallo pretending he's got to think about it.
Just doubles the bet, gets the call. Well, now Ram has picked up the flush draw. Gallo could probably do with... I was just going to say he could probably do with making a bit of a bigger bet, because Ram's getting good odds and he's got good draws. If an ace comes down, he fancies it. Wow,
the 4 spades.
Wowee. Well, he got very fortunate with the board there, but maybe Gallo didn't act early enough to... And that's the great argument that says about, you know, when you have a big hand, you want to milk it, but the slower you play it, the more you leave the door open for people to get in and make the draws. This time, doesn't muck around, he gets straight in there with his flush draw. The ace on the board probably helped put the pressure on Ram, who's now going, well, I quite like my little chip lead. Suited connectors, nice decent picture cards, just flat calls it. It's kind of nice, but not nice. It's a bit like, you know, when we're saying about somebody making ace-king, but ignoring that. You know, if you'd made your ace-10 here, the problem is it also gives Gullo the draw for the straight. But Ram is trying to bet at this. 7, 8, 9, 10, nope. No 4 card straights here. Aces with the jack and the queen beats aces with the queen. All about your kickers. Ace-jack's going to be a good move. He's probably happy that Ram has made it 6,000. Blind's now 1,500, 3,000. Took a while to get there, and it still doesn't put a huge amount of pressure on these guys.
It's very interesting to watch it though, watch what hands they do what with and the tactics that they use.
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean,
when I get to this stage on Tuesday, I'm going to need to, you know.
Well, that's very, very I like the confidence you're showing. Yeah, I mean, you know, how should, dear Matt, Michelle here, how should I react when I've won? Should I thank all the players? I mean, that's the way to be thinking.
I can't see my victory dance because it's on the net.
But it's true. I mean, you know, TV's Nick the Hare Walthall. He really rates his heads up. He loves to get heads up with people because he thinks he's got a real edge there. But I think you'll find the majority of people playing today that have just come into the game in the last couple of years, that's not the conversation you'd have with them because that's actually them fairly out of their, you know, comfort zone.
To be honest, I quite like heads up when I played it.
I think as long as you accept that it's like a different game, you can't play the poker that you learn out the books or on the telly. It is a very different style, then it's good fun. It's a great area to improve. Pocket nines versus 4-7 suited. A little tickle. Probably going to get a re-raise here. That's a pretty big re-raise. That tells Gullo that he's not entering this with the best of it. I think what we're learning here is these guys are very patient. They're not really gamblers. I think the blinds being low is making that easier to maintain. But sometimes you do find people just start cracking up at this point. They've been playing for like,
so long.
You know, a few hours. Is that quite often people go, do you know what? I'm so glad I'm in the money. I'm just going to start gambling here. But that's again why you've got to be so aware of the blinds. Ace-king for Ram. Gullo suited, but other than that, no reason to play it. Ram would be gutted he didn't get a bit more action out of his ace-king. Wowee, 4-jack off versus 7-5 off.
Oh, it's all going to happen.
Tickle, tickle, tickle. Let's see the flop, they say. Nobody makes a single piece of it. Who's going to be big boy and bet? And how much? There's 18 in the pot. Half the pot. That's about right. And again, that was the point we were saying, is that though that's not a big stack of chips, 9 grand isn't a lot to you when you're holding 145 grand. But he was just making the pot odds so sort of, you're getting 2 to 1 on your money here. It's not worth gambling. If you're getting 10 to 1, then yeah, what the hell, whatever I've got, it could be good for me.
Well, gut shot and backdoor flush draw for Cham.
Indeedly. That doesn't change much for anybody. Queen 4 versus Queen 10 essentially is the race. It's just about the kickers, but he who bets wins. There we see Gullo. Even if Ram put him on one of the draws for the flush, it's still not the game he wants to get involved in. He's still got the chip lead, and he seems to be far more dedicated to protecting that.
Jack Queen, nice.
Yeah,
well, nicer than 9-4 anyway.
Well, exactly, and that's the whole thing, is think about the hands we've seen here. That's where, wow, suddenly Jack Queen in heads up. Well, that's strong. And how many of these? We're not seeing many of these go to the flop, so there really is a lot of just.
The only thing I have with the heads up thing is it's generally down to things like to pairs more than anything. How can you then get away from it? Because there's so much betting that goes on with top pair and things like that. How can you get away with it when somebody's got like trips or something like that when they're really beating you? If you're sitting there with top pair, he's got 2 pair and he calls all in, you think, because you're working on a different level, should you still be able to get away from that?
Well, I guess the truth is, by this stage, you've probably been playing against these guys for a fair while. We've only tuned in here for the last section, but these guys have been bumping into each other on and off all night long. So I think that's part of the game where it depends how much information you've gathered about the players. If you've sussed any kind of particular betting pattern, it's hard because heads up is a different formula. But one of the things that we find, people that have predominantly been brought up, if you like, playing internet poker, is that they're much better at monitoring betting patterns. Live players are, you know, they have all this kind of body language and tells and all that kind of stuff that you don't get online, but online people are very good at monitoring betting patterns just simply because it's laid out so well. So it really is about vibe. You know, if you sense somebody's kind of limped in, what do you put him on, the way he's betting. It is tough. It is tough, like you say. You know, if the guy's made trip fours and the guy's hit pair of tens, can he get away from it? But I think the truth is, when you're playing the major part of the game, people are more likely to limp in with small pairs. So you are more often, I find, surprised by trips in, you know, with 8 players, 10 players, because people will go, I don't really want to go crazy with the profiles, I'll just limp in here. So I find you're more surprised to see people have made their trips, whereas here, if you get a pair of fours, you're going to make a move with it.
Yeah.
So it's very rare that you're surprised to find somebody with a hand, I would say.
Oh, okay.
I think we'll see it here. You're not going to bump into anybody with even a pair of twos that's just going to limp in. They'll make a move because they know that up against a random hand, they're probably ahead of it. They're so easily outdrawn, but here and now, they've got enough strength that they're going to make a move with it. Ram's still holding on to this lead.
Yeah, it's very, like you say, this is a lot of backward and forwarding.
Yeah. We've been sitting on this for probably about 15 minutes now with it being a heads up, and the chips have only really slightly moved over. They went from a big advantage to Gullo, then they're equal, now Ram's ahead, but there's still not a huge amount between it. 7-4 is not really going to find they're probably going to face a re-raise here. You don't want to just call with tens because the flop can damage you. I think he's going to probably make a big move. There you go. Okay, that's fine with me. Suited ace-2. Not normally worth getting too excited about, but it's packed with possibilities. There's the draw for Gullo. An 8 would give him the straight.
A big bet. He's must...
Ram representing really. I mean, well,
ooh,
now he's
now top pair.
It's really about whether Gullo. That's a good. You know, that's fair dues.
Move.
Yeah. Just didn't believe Ram there, and there you go. Your boy's back in the lead.
Changed leaders. Ace-2 again, but not quite as pretty as the last one.
They're not even the same colour, are they? I mean, even with a beautiful 4-colour deck. Do you play with a 4-colour deck or online? Have you become accustomed to the 4-colour deck?
Yeah, it's a 4-colour deck on online. I don't think I'd like it if it was only 2. I'd feel cheated. Yeah, hang on a minute. I've got my money in.
I've paid for 4 colours.
4 colours, please.
2006.
Full access to the colours.
Why aren't they 3-dimensional? And the boys are back to
How much in heads up does the suitedness come into play pre-flop?
Again, for me, not a huge amount, to be honest. The general rule I go by is, if I don't like my cards, I shouldn't allow their suitedness to change that. After flop there, Queen 3, I don't like much, but after that flop, okay, well that gives me some more outs. Wow.
Ooh,
see, look.
Ram Chick gave him the free card and he's now overtaken.
Yeah, the trip.
Ram Chick would go in here. 3 nines. Oh, he doesn't.
Ram got away from that well there, you know. But, so that's the truth of it, is that post-flop, that's when the suitedness is going to make a difference to me. 8-2, I can't believe you're playing 8-2 just because they're suited. You're playing it because it's cheap and you want to see if you get lucky. He asked the question, it's a flat call. He's going to ask another question. I think Gullo just made that flat call because he was worried about being trapped on the 10s. But, I mean, these guys are good. These guys are paying attention, which, you know, can be hard. A lot of the people I talk to, some of these guys are playing the big tournaments, and the hardest thing is concentration. You've been playing for so long. And the worst thing is you're at your most fresh at the beginning of the tournament when the blinds are small, there's loads of play. Right now, you're tired, you've been going for hours, you're trying to focus.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Did you just count that out in your hand to be
No,
sure?
I didn't.
I think you did.
I was just doing my fingers as I did it.
Oh, okay. I believe you. I'm just checking. It is 5 cards we're looking for here. You're right to do your hand.
Oh.
But you might find if you do that live, I know you've been talking about looking for more live experience. If you sit there and go, oh, I see, and you count out in your hands, people
Yeah, but
might
I'm planning in my live, right, because I'm a girl, I personally think a lot of men aren't going to give me any credit. So what I'm planning to do is, like, if I'm bluffing and they're thinking about calling, I'm going to do little smiles as if I'm happy about...
Good, yeah.
Right, because they're going to think, oh, she's giving me a tail because she's happy about her hand.
Yeah.
And things like that as well. I'm going to, not like, just as if I'm trying to count in my head if I've got the straight. Like draw when I want them to call, like Ray or whatever. I'm going to try and do all that stuff.
Well, a lot of the pros, you know, that's the problem with playing live against a lot of the pros, is that they're so good that they're able to feed false tells. So I would say go for it. Make them subtle. Don't make them too obvious, otherwise it will be
If I go, woo!
Exactly. They'll be thinking, this girl is so daft, she can't possibly be sitting here with money invested.
I was telling you earlier, wasn't I, about what Vicky Coren wrote about girls playing at poker tables. It was absolutely wonderful. My favourite one was when she said, if you get outdrawn, start to cry. And they won't call you again because they'll feel too bad.
Yeah, wonderful. I've got a funny feeling. I can picture a few places I play poker where that probably wouldn't work. The ruthless scoundrels that frequent some of the places I know might not work for you. But hey,
you've got to use your
boys, femininity. What? Inevitable femininity.
Inevitable femininity against them.
Look, 7, 8, 9, jack. Only 4 fingers there on that particular straight.
I don't have a problem with headbutting you, you know.
Gosh, I didn't expect that one. He's having a little plop, a little ploppity 6 grand. It's good enough. Ram says, do you know what? There are so many things that beat me, even if you don't have it. Willkommen. 2594. See, this is it, folks. Suck it up. This is heads up. Look at the junk that's just constantly coming out, hand after hand. And at least online, it's fast. This is the part of my home games I hate, where you're shuffling and you shuffle and you shuffle. You want to get a good shuffle.
Never invited me to one of your home games, Matt. You worried?
You are more than welcome. I can guarantee that my friends would welcome you with open arms, with a big dead money stamped across your forehead. Dead money. No, hey, you know, Essex people, we should get together for some Essex poker. But, you know, you shuffle, deal, fold. Ugh. At least here it's fast.
Just don't worry about shuffling.
Well, that's blackjack you're thinking of there. Well, is Gullo going to get paid? It's a good idea, but they're noisy.
I've got one. Never used it.
Really?
I don't know why I got it, to be honest.
They're very good, you know. I use them sometimes in home games.
I just wanted everything. I bought the poker table and the poker set, and I just wanted the shuffle too. You
bought a poker table and you didn't come to me?
Yeah, but I didn't know then. This was ages ago.
Okay.
Off eBay.
eBay. Gullo has got Ram out-ruined. Even if Ram hits King now, he's going to be in trouble. Luckily for Ram, he doesn't, and Gullo is just keeping it cheap and milking him.
Ram chips, got to do something now. Really,
he has, yeah, but again, he's still got 10 big blinds. 6, 7. That's not the sort of flop you really want when you've tried to get him with 6, 7 for cheap.
No, but he wins it.
But he makes the bet. This guy's been very cagey, just making blind-sized bets, just nibbling and tickling and prodding. If that's your thing. An ace high, a welcome ace for Ram, who goes, yep, that's good enough for me, all in. No.
So you and I going all in with my ace 8, I get beaten.
Oh, let it go. Just let it go. I'd forgotten all about that, and there you are, stewing and steaming.
Ooh, he's hit 6.
Yep. Well, Ram, again, we've known that he's sensible. He gets an answer. He tried it with the Queen 5. Bit ambitious considering there's 2 overcards there, because I would expect Gullo to make a re-raise. He only doubled the bet because he's got the chips, and this is the problem now. Ram is up against Gullo, who's got so many more chips. That's gonna look, is limping in. Ram's going, oh, I'm not so sure I want to fight you. Cheeky limp boy.
Oh, here we go.
Gullo is probably going to have a bite of this.
Needs a 7 or a 6.
Needs a 6 or 7.
Whoa! Oh, he gets it!
Hello. Welcome to the river.
River rat.
Nice. Jack 6, Jack 7. If If a jack comes now, I feel my boy could be back in the fight.
Yeah.
Just doubles the blind. The blinds have now gone up to 2,000, 4,000. Becomes slightly more scary for Ram because even though he's just gone up in chips, he's not got a huge amount of comfort. And you can see how quickly these hands are going through. Jack 9 suited. Jack 9, pick it up.
It's gone on for a while, hasn't it, the heads up?
Yeah.
A lot of I've seen them go so quickly.
Yeah, well, these guys, I think, particularly kind of examples of people that are just being very patient. They're not making crazy big bets, taking their time. And it is a big difference, you know, that if your hobby is playing $10 tournaments, then the difference between $276 and $414, that's a lot of games to get out before you're, you know, making a loss again.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's why we always talk about bankroll management, is because you always want a bankroll that can sustain. And if all you like to play is these, you know, these multi-tables, they represent really good value. Hone your skills. These guys, you know, they've played through 138 players, 136 should I say, and here they are showing that they know how to play heads up.
My dad played a multi-table tournament the other day. Top 20 places were paid. He come something like 12th.
He came 12th. He came 12th.
What did I say?
He come. It's like you sound a bit red-handed, didn't it? He come 12th.
He
Sorry, I'm just, because you're not playing poker, because I can't pick up on your phone, I'm going to pick on your grammar now. Abbreviation
that's
next.
fine.
There's a practical
you
test
know
at
what,
2:30.
But no, he came like 12 or something and only made $14 on his $5 he'd entered with. He was like, I played for 3 hours.
Yeah.
I could have just gone in a single table tourney. Got in the money.
Well, the thing is, you could sit in a cash game, you could sit in a $2, $4 cash game, wait for one hand an hour and make it. So that's why you've got to be so, ooh, 9, 10, Jack, Queen, King. That's all 5 of your fingers, if I'm not mistaken. Ram has picked up a nice move.
Yes, no, actually, because I only have 4 fingers.
Wowie. All right, and the thumb. Well, Gullo made the move there, and Ram, from the death of it, is back up.
Yeah.
To the point that I forgot what I was talking about. Now, you need to know what your objective is, because if you're playing in these tournaments to make money, then that's not likely to come your way when you're in the cheapy weepies. And like you say, you want to spend 3 hours to make $10. But, you know, if you're just honing your skills, then that's fine. Fine, fab and groovy. Some of these free rolls, you know, the stipulations to actually make some money out of it, you've got to get through about a couple of thousand people and really get in the top 3 to make it worth investing the 5.5 hours it's going to take. But if you do come first, I've had a few of these where I got freebie entries and picked up, you know, a few $100. It doesn't hurt. Ram has got himself the identical hand to Gullo, only he's got some suited action, which is good enough for him to call. He's going to check and see if Gullo fires another bullet, which he doesn't. Will it be split, or will one of these guys actually... 8 grand in 72. That's like a, you know, we were talking about the value bet earlier on, somebody asked us. There's no way 8 grand is designed to...
Wow, for Gullo.
Yeah, there's no way that 8 grand is designed to, like, bully him off the pot. It's just a bet to see where am I, gets a re-raise and gets out of it.
God, he does. That's where I would struggle, you know. Gullo just did that wonderful re-raise to ram chips. He must have smelt the ram chip that he could push him off with a re-raise.
Yeah, I think that's probably just because of the passage of play and because of what we've learned just watching these guys. We know how attentive they are to the betting patterns. The fact there's a big lump in the pot. Ram has just come back from, you know, being right down to going all in twice there. You know, Ram's had a little prod. It's not a big amount because of the size of Ram's bet of 8,000. It's not a huge amount to Gullo to just give a little push back. And we know these guys are very disciplined. When they get a bit of resistance and they're not holding on to anything, they are letting it go, which is probably why they've survived this long.
Yeah.
Another pair of players, you think of some of the other guys that we catch up with on the tables, this would have been over ages ago. Somebody make a push, somebody make a push. This could be a big hand for us here. Ram with ace-jack is going to make it 16. Gullo is bound to make something of this. Can't see him just flat on this. We could see this going to all in and being called. They are all in. He's going to get called for sure. There's the jack. This the king does not come. Wowee, and look at that. 2,000, 4,000 on the blinds, and we are down to 18 for Gullo. That's a big hand there for Ram. Ram up to 192. Do you know what? All of a sudden I'm quite liking your selection of winners. I can feel my beard staying on my face. 9-4. Well, Gullo really, £2 grand. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't go all in there. If you're going to make a move, you may as well. Well, Ram now is just thinking, there's no way I'm giving you enough chips to like get back into this. Gullo's going to get stung. Well, there you are. This is all in. Value-wise, Ram is bound to call. Gullo's all in. He does go all in. Got to call it. A 10 or a 7. 10 or a 7. 10. Oh, and there's the 10. Wow. Ram is our winner. Wow, well, there you go. My boy won it. Not that I picked him, but good on you, Squire. Full house, 2s full of 10s versus Ace King. And Ram goes home $414 richer for his $10. And Gullo won, who gave us a great little heads-up show there, gets $276. Well done, guys. What a great bit of heads-up. I hope you learned a lot there. I hope you learned a lot.
I actually learned quite a lot there, to be honest.
And the key thing to take home is just when it gets the heads-up, the values of hands just completely blow apart to the standard Texas Hold'em you watch.
We've got an email from Julian. He says, hello again, just to let you know, I'm winning on the cash games.
Oh.
Great. He says, now, I know you're not going to agree with this, but vodka and Red Bull works. Maybe Night Nurse should give it a go on the next Beat the Presenter. Well,
a little bit of stimulation might do the trick.
Oh, but, I didn't play that badly.
No, I wasn't suggesting that you play badly, just saying a little bit of help might help.
Well, thanks, Julian. I'll think about it.
We'll consider it. Next time, we promise we'll take that quite seriously.
We're going to go to a cash game quickly before the end of the show, have a quick little look, see what's going on over there. I mean, me and Matt could stay in Vision and talk poker for 10 minutes, but you may as well watch it. Well,
let's be honest, that's why everyone's here. And here we are. We were here a bit earlier on, our 50-cent $1. We got a little short-handed table going on here, which could be interesting to see. We generally watch the full tables, but it's... People quite often select, there's always lots of forum discussions about, do you prefer to play, full tables, or do you prefer playing short-handed tables? Is again, because so many of today's internet players, they've all been brought up on tournaments, they're used to making moves, they're used to the pace and the looseness of short-handed games. And I guess we're going to find out if Smooth Cut, PLC and Rocket Raider are them kind of people.
Just the three of them, it is quite late.
Well, some people got work tomorrow. I know I have.
Have you? I'm going to the gym.
Lady of leisure. TV's Michelle, Night Nurse. Oh.
And I'm off to the sauna afterwards.
Just stop now. Stop talking now, please.
Bit of a jacuzzi. So cheers, imagine if we saw some spades, but...
Yep. The 6, it's, it's a pair, but it ain't the best pair. Oh, here comes some hearts. Now I'm scared. Scared of this, scared of that. Of course, with the cash games, people are probably, they're going to be a bit more speculative, happy to chase some stuff down. Rocket Raider, I would have fancied a bet there just because by checking, it's like the conversation we had earlier on, you just don't know where you are. And a little bet there, it's either going to induce a fold or it's going to get a call and you think, okay, this guy's got something, or you're going to get re-raised and you know that you beat. But to just keep checking, you have connected with that flop and you've gone all the way through all the betting rounds. And if Smooth Cut made a bet now, he probably pushes you off it. But and John 76 joins the table, picks up an ace-7 on the big blind, not the worst place to be. I'll wager he's happy with that.
Yep.
Smooth Cut, is he going to feel compelled to just make up the 50 cents as is in the small? He's thinking about it. Or he's fallen asleep in his chair.
So what games do you usually play in? What cash games do you usually... Do you play many cash games or are you more tournament player?
Do you know, I'm mostly at the moment tournament, simply because if I play cash games, I like to have a long period of time to sit down. I always think that if you have any time constraints, you never play well in cash games.
No.
Because cash games, especially if I play limit, if I play like £2, £4 limit game, you want time. You want time to suss out your opponents. The worst, if I've ever played most of my live games I've actually played out in Vegas, and the number of times I've sat next to somebody who's been brilliant for a couple of hours, and then his wife appears on the rail, and she's kind of going, are we going shopping, are we going to lunch? and he will say, another 15 minutes, and those 15 minutes are the worst 15 minutes because he's playing more pots than he should do because he's trying to get the best out of his last 15 minutes. He can throw it away then, and that's just because when the time is pressure, then that's an extra pressure you don't need. So mostly I play tournaments just simply because I know roughly how long they're going to last.
Yeah. Yeah, it must be I do that. If I've got something to do or somewhere to go, then I will play a tournament.
And especially because most of the time, if I'm sitting at a PC to play games online during the day, it's probably because I'm writing something. So I've got a couple of monitors, and I normally have my work in front of me and a little monitor here just ticking over like a lunchtime turbo or something.
I don't like those turbo tournaments.
I don't mind them. I think they can be quite good fun, but you have to approach them in the right way. You have to approach them in a bit more of a cavalier sort of like, Jack 9, my first hand, I'm going to make a move with it. Just, in the same way we were talking earlier on, I was saying early stages of a tournament, maybe be a bit more speculative, maybe try and limp in. With the turbo tournaments, actually, I would change that to get involved. If you think it's worth playing, get involved. But the truth is, I find you tend to need a little bit more like. The good thing is people go crackers. In the first 15 minutes, everyone's going mental in the turbo tournaments.
Really?
And
I did play in one, but I went out quite early. I don't know what I did.
Yeah, well, again, that's the thing, is my style, I like the turbos. A lot of people don't, so that's the truth of it.
Actually, I know exactly what my room. I just got completely. I just wasn't. The thing is, I was playing my usual game, so I was being a little bit tight, and you can't be tight in turbos. All of a sudden, the blinds were huge and I didn't have anything.
Well, that's the thing is, a bit earlier on, you were being all very disciplined and chucking away ace 10 a couple of times. In a turbo, that's it. That's your premium hand because you just don't have the time to sit around. There's much more races. You'll find lots more, ace jack versus king 10. Everybody's all in. See how the cards come out. It's a bit more pray to the poker gods in those sort of things.
A bit more of a crapshoot.
A little bit so, yes. It's more a case of do you like your starting hand because you're probably going to be putting all your chips in and going to the river with it.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's sitting down. Merlin joins us. Freddie Kidd. But I mean, it's a revolution. It's amazing. It's really, if you were playing poker about 10 years ago,
you would have loved this.
The amount of games, the fact that you can be fussy enough to say, don't really like the turbo tournaments, I'm going to pick a slower one, I don't want to play 50 cents, $1, I want to play this. If you were used to going into casinos, there was a game going, and that's one of the things is a lot of the different variations are kind of dying, because in the old days, in inverted commas, you walked into a casino, if the table was full, well, you'd sit and play Omaha, you'd sit and play 7-card stud, whereas now everyone has the luxury of always finding a game any time of day or night. Any limit? Whatever you want.
Whatever you
want. Thanks for that. That's a little trailer tune there. Oh, hello. A7, pair of queens, king jack. A7 might have a little prod here. Limp in, I reckon. Limp in, yun. All right, don't raise it up and find yourself re-raised by PLC. I warned him. I told him to limp him. Oh, I would have fancied a raise it with the queens, and now I'd go all in. That's it. There you are. You can take that to the bank.
With your queens all in.
Because I'm so going to put you on something like a something. Kings for Juan now. He gets rewarded by ignoring my ludicrous advice. There you go, John. What do I mean?
Excellent. Right, well, we have an email from Tirade. It says, hey, Michelle and Matt. You did well, Michelle. Best sit and go you've played so far. We all make mistakes, but you learn from them. Well, thank you, Tirade. It says, Matt mentioned earlier about playing speculative hands in late position. See if you hit the flop to try and accumulate chips in a multi-table sit and go. What if you already do this tactic but don't hit anything, yet other players do? Then they raise big nearly every hand after that, bullying the table, making it hard to call with speculative hands in late position. How do you deal with this? Wait for good hands and re-raise? Re-raise anyway with any 2 cards in late position? Or get a pillow and punch it till all your frustration is gone? Thanks, guys, and great show.
Thanks for the email. I think I said this at the time. The truth is, it is speculative, and the point that actually Michelle then backed me up with is that it only works if you can let it go. Because, yeah, if you come in, I've got 9, 10, it's cheap, I come in. If you don't hit it, then you let it go, and you let it go if people are betting into you. And you only do it for a small period of the game when it's early doors, the blinds are cheap. Because if you do hit a hand, you're just going to have an opportunity to accumulate chips where otherwise you might not. But just let it go if you don't hit it. And if people are re-raising at you, then fine. They've clearly got you beat. At least you got it involved. And don't waste too many of your chips, but also don't be scared to just sit back and wait for aces and kings to start with, because you'll miss opportunities.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Sometimes you do want to hang in there with a hand, but you have to, especially in a tournament, you have to say to yourself, well, you know, I have put some chips in this, but I could wait. I'm not dead yet. I could sit back, leave it, and wait for something better.
Wait for a better opportunity.
Right, well, that is all we have time for tonight. It's been a wonderful night, Matthew. Thank you
good fun.
very, very much. I've really enjoyed it. Do remember to tune in to us tomorrow at 10 p.m. We'll be here again. And we look forward tomorrow. We've got the Dream Poker multi-table tournament as well.
Indeedy. Good stuff, so tune in.
Yeah, definitely. We look forward to that. So from Matt and I, it is good night and goodbye, and we'll see you tomorrow night at 10.